President Trump's State of the Union address arriving at a tumultuous political time and in the wake of a major setback for his agenda. The president says he has much to say.
It's going to be a long speech because we have so much to talk about.
On Friday, the conservative majority Supreme Court struck down Trump's emergency tariffs, a centerpiece of his economic agenda. Trump lashed back by using a different authority to announce a new global tariff, now at 15%. Congressional Democrats say he's out of touch with American voters feeling squeezed in the current economy.
Affordability continues to be the top issue that they're worried about. And it's not just the American families, the small businesses that have been hurt. This is something where the American people see crystal clear the damage that Trump has done to them.
And Capitol Hill Republicans have a lot at stake as the president outlines his priorities for the year ahead. Midterm elections loom in November, and the president's approval rating across most polls sits underwater.
If he can't improve from where he is now, then there are people who are going to wake up on Election Day who we never saw coming, who are going to lose.
Trump's first year back in office has also been marked by sweeping cuts to the federal workforce, massive immigration and crime crackdowns that saw the National Guard deployed in some major cities, and strained relationships among traditional global alliances. On Capitol Hill, I'm Karen Kafa.
Welcome to Atlanta News First Plus as we prepare to take you tonight to a nationwide address from President Donald Trump in his State of the Union speech that is sure to be watched by millions around the country. Now, the speech comes at a critical moment with several high-profile issues threatening to overshadow the president's message that the U.S. economy is turning to the corner. Tonight, we break it all down, what to watch for, what it means for you, your family, and your wallet, and what it means for the upcoming election. I want to bring you out to D.C., where our team, Local News Live here, Katrin's Asaf, joins us to talk a little bit about the pulse in the nation's capital. Katrin, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. This is definitely an electrifying speech that we were expecting from the president. What kind of conversations are you all hearing leading up to the big address?
Well, there is a lot of chatter in Washington from not only lawmakers, but those within the cabinet and even those here in Washington, D.C., who are just living here about what this speech could mean. Of course, this is coming off of a very busy weekend for President Trump. We had that Supreme Court decision that came down about his tariffs. They were struck down on Friday. That was just a number of days ago. We know that we are leading up to the midterm elections in just a few months, and all of the talk around that from both Democrats and Republicans have been about affordability. So we can expect that to be a major issue. And you have to remember that this is also about a year after President Trump delivered his first joint address to Congress in his second term. This is really just coming off of that 1 year mark for the president for term number 2. So we can also expect him to talk a little bit about the victories and the successes that he has seen over the past year and where he wants to go from here. So a lot of eyes are going to be on this speech, not only here in D.C., but across the nation. This is going to be very high stakes, not only for him. You mentioned his approval rating. That is going to be critical for the president, but also to see how he's going to react to some of this new breaking information that came out over the past week, and then what this means for us moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, even the president himself has said we inherited a mess when referencing the economy, and that is sure to come up. So looking back as well as looking forward, looking at this past year, 2025, going into 2026, what kind of faithful words can we expect from the president asking the nation, that the economy in his hands is going to recover when many are understandably growingly frustrated with the direction that things are taking?
Mm-hmm. And, I think we can hear a lot of what the president has said in the past be repeated again today. I'm particularly interested to see how he's going to address the issue of tariffs. If that is brought up, again, the Supreme Court struck down his policy on Friday. He, in that same day, tried to re-establish some of these tariff policies using different statutes and different methods. And he has said previously that that really is the core of his economic policy, specifically his trade policy, saying that that is going to be how we boost American manufacturing, how we get jobs back into the U.S. Now, we have talked to a number of small businesses who are really concerned about that message. They say it's been a year and they really haven't seen change. The administration, however, is saying that it takes time and they feel that we are on the right path. And again, affordability is an issue that everyone is talking about. We see that the president has talked about the issue of affordable housing. He has talked about the issue of health care. He has talked about the issue of groceries, and has also mentioned with tariffs, trying to make things more affordable with trade policies and partners from other countries. But we see that the Democrats and Republicans are also taking this moment, and they are putting their own spin on the issue of affordability. In fact, Democrats, specifically Senate Democrats, have said for 2026, affordability is their top concern. They have a whole detailed policy outline going point by point, talking about the different things that cost Americans so much money, from housing to energy to groceries to health care. And they are trying to go against what the president is saying and kind of offer their own solution against what the administration is talking about. So that certainly will be a big issue. Again, I think the president will probably repeat a lot of what we have heard from this first year of his second term, and just promise that things take time and that he is hopeful that in the future we will get back on track.
Yeah, I couldn't have said that better myself, and a lot still to be seen. I wanted to mention one of the hot issues right now, and that is surrounding immigration. One of the top things that we can expect out of his address, and he mentioned before the boost in defense spending for border policy, for immigration achievements, and continuing forward with that is one of his top accomplishments from his administration's first year, in his own words. So that being a focus in his second year could be expected, but there is a lot of disagreement and controversy surrounding how immigration should be approached. And you're talking about an address to Congress, an address to the nation. What kind of reactions are you expecting?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, especially when we look at Democrats in Congress, to see how they're going to react to certain things the president is saying. You have to remember that the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, is still currently technically without funding, because there is still that fight going on in Congress about giving them funding. And specifically, the issue is over ICE and Border Patrol and how those immigration enforcement tactics have been carried out in different cities across the U.S. So we certainly see that that effort by Democrats, congressional Democrats, is still very much on the table. That is a huge talking point. So we can expect them to react to that, possibly afterwards, maybe within the chambers as well, if the president brings that up. I'm sure that he is going to mention immigration and the efforts that they have taken over this past year. His administration has said multiple times that they feel that this has been a great success, that they are doing what they promised that they would do on the campaign trail in terms of immigration and border control and deportations and getting some of what they consider illegal migrants out of the country. So I'm sure that that will be a huge point of contention here in the chamber when he is giving this speech. We've also heard that a number of Democrats have promised that they will not show up to the speech, that they are simply not going to be there because they don't want to hear what the president has to say. A lot of them have cited his immigration policies as the main issue of them not wanting to support him in this speech today. But for those who do remain and do listen, it'll be interesting to hear what their reaction is.
And this speech coming in the midst of the Epstein files investigation. And we have heard that a number of Epstein's victims are expected to be in the audience for this speech. Taking a look at that investigation, the files that have been released, the conversation surrounding this, and whether the president was criminally involved, while looking to him to address the nation, to lead the country forward. I mean, that tension in the room is going to be there. What can we expect out of that side of the conversation?
And you're right, there is going to be certainly tension between the victims who are going to be in the audience, who are going to be sitting in front of the president and watching him and listening to what he says. And many of them have said that they feel that his administration, specifically the Department of Justice, did not properly handle the release of the Epstein files. We have seen multiple examples over the past few weeks and months of certain information not being properly redacted, of certain names being covered up, or not covered up rather, but simply not revealed, but those would be those involved, while victims were accidentally revealed. So there was a lot of talk specifically among those involved in the victims of the Jeffrey Epstein case, who are seeing this as really a major issue, and they are looking to the president to see how he's going to react to this. We have heard from the administration multiple times before that they say that they are doing the best they can with the release, to follow the law as it is written, to properly release all of this information, and it is millions of pages of documents that they are trying to get out. But I think that is going to be a really powerful moment to see. And I know that some of my colleagues had spoken to some of them this morning as they are getting ready to attend this speech, and they said that they feel that this, for them, is going to be a very powerful moment, and they really want to hear how he talks about that issue, if he does at all today during the speech.
I think powerful is a good word to use. We talk about the typical State of the Union address and what it does to re-energize Congress and to lay out clearly what the accomplishments have been for the past year and what the focus needs to be for the year going forward. And for President Trump, this is going to be no exception. But the stakes are higher for this particular address. Midterm elections are on the horizons. There is a lot at play, and Republicans are hoping to convince the American people that they are united. So looking at that, looking at the pressure that is on the president to both address members of Congress and both present that to the nation, what can we expect out of the Democratic response and the influence this could have on the midterm election?
Yeah, this is a really important moment for the president and for his entire party, because this may be one of the final times he has this platform to address the entire nation to a joint session of Congress before the midterms really kick off. And, you know, there are many Americans who maybe are still making up their mind. They're still determining who's going to tackle affordability best, who is going to help me when it comes to how much I'm paying at the grocery store, or how much the cost of living is, to how safe I feel in the United States, and to foreign affairs. And so with those people, it's these types of speeches that are going to be so critically important. And of course, for the president, this is a huge deal because right now he has the majority control in Congress. We have seen that, but it's a very slim margin. So if Democrats dominate during the midterms, he's going to lose that control, and it's going to make passing his efforts more difficult if this doesn't go the way he's hoping it does. So in that regard, yes, for both Republicans and the president, this is a huge opportunity, and one that could be critically important or could be a major hit to the midterms. Now, for the Democrats, you mentioned Republicans trying to show a united front. Democrats are also trying to do that as well. We have heard from congressional Democratic leaders that they have ordered Democrats to either not show up or to show up and to listen and to pay attention, to not, be holding any signs or to have any sort of outbursts. They really want to show that they are united, that they have this, front that they are putting on, that they are paying attention and taking this extremely seriously, while also kind of protesting in their own way. Like I said, we've heard from multiple Democrats who said they're just not going to show up. And in fact, there is an alternate town hall event that is taking place today where many Democratic lawmakers are going to attend instead. They said that way they're going to talk about the issues they feel really matter to Americans. And so that is their way of kind of showing that they are all together. They have kind of one united idea of how they're going to address this as a party, while still trying to talk about the issues that the president is also going to mention in his speech tonight.
We're talking with Katrin Asaf, joining us from Washington, D.C. Thank you so much for really contextualizing and diving deep with me on the State of the Union address. We are taking you back out live to our nation's capital as we continue to preview for you and count down to President Trump's State of the Union address. Again, a speech looking at the future of this nation and the president's priorities, as well as a call to Congress to come together. And just to break some of where we are down for you, a new CNN poll shows just 32% of Americans currently believe that Trump has the country on the right track. 73% of independents disapprove of Trump's job performance. 70% of independents say the country is headed in the wrong direction. And 77% of independents say Trump hasn't paid enough attention to the most important problems facing the country. And even among the self-identified Republicans, approval of the president's job performance and priorities sits only in the 70s. Now, despite those numbers, the president has been insistent on policies like tariffs, immigration, and other issues, and maintains that they are working. We're going to break down what you can expect here, but I want to start by taking you out to Washington, D.C. with a look at how preparations are going there. We're going to toss it out now to Local News Live's John Decker.
Since taking office last January, President Donald Trump has signed over 240 executive orders, far surpassing the number he signed in his entire first term. And on Tuesday, the president will lay out what his agenda will be for the remainder of his presidency.
America is back.
At last year's address to Congress, the president gave a preview of what his second term would look like.
My fellow Americans, get ready for an incredible future because the golden age of America has only just begun.
In fact, during the president's first year, he signed orders that transformed the federal government.
Upon taking office, I imposed an immediate freeze on all federal hiring, a freeze on all new federal regulations, and a freeze on all foreign aid.
For President Trump, his so-called Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, cut thousands of government jobs and dismantled much of the Department of Education. Last year, he explained his goals for shrinking the size of the federal government.
My administration will reclaim power from this unaccountable bureaucracy, and we will restore true democracy to America again.
All those executive orders have changed the federal government, but voters have not seen change at home. The president claims the U.S. has the greatest economy in history, but voters continue to express their concerns about affordability. And overseas, the conflicts that the president promised to end on day one continue to be fought. What's missing is cooperation with Congress, as President Trump has already seen the federal government shut down twice in his second term. However, at this year's State of the Union, the president plans to focus on ways to eliminate what he calls waste, fraud, and abuse. For Local News Live at the White House, I'm John Decker.
From tariffs to DOGE to immigration enforcement, President Donald Trump has enacted unique and polarizing policies. Some of these policies have not been seen in a century, others never before. We asked historical experts to weigh in.
I, Donald John Trump.
From the moment he was inaugurated, President Trump hit the ground running. George Washington University professor Todd Belt says Trump demonstrated his desire to work without Congress when he signed a record 26 executive orders on his first day.
It was about 70 even within the first week, and just one of those undid 76 executive orders by Joe Biden. And since that time, he's racked up over 200.
Several of those orders have dramatically altered U.S. policy.
Trump has been the most consequential president in the 21st century.
Trump's signature tariff policy pushed the limits on executive power, and the Supreme Court ruled a majority of those tariffs were unconstitutional. Professor Michael Kazin says such consequential policy being held up in courts is rare. It happened most recently when FDR attempted to pass sweeping federal regulations to recover from the Great Depression.
That was ruled unconstitutional by the Supreme Court in 1935. And also, the Supreme Court was so hostile, usually at least, to Roosevelt's initiatives in the 1930s to the New Deal, that he infamously tried to pack the court.
The tariff ruling was a loss for the president, but this Supreme Court has also handed him several wins, limiting federal judges' ability to block his actions, granting him immunity from criminal prosecution for acts taken in his presidential capacity, and allowing racial profiling for an immigration crackdown Kazin says has blurred the line between immigrants here legally and illegally.
So we haven't seen that ever since the 1920s, when immigrants were I think demonized is the right word.
Trump is struggling in the polls after the dramatic changes during his first term, but Belt says polling shows the downswing in popularity goes beyond executive power.
Voters do care about democracy, but it's a little bit down on the list. Number one is performance. And of course, performance of the economy is just about everything.
Trump's power to act unilaterally would greatly diminish if Democrats take one or both chambers of Congress in the midterms. In Washington, I'm Brendan Cullerton.
Now, before President Donald Trump's speech on Tuesday evening, 100 senators are going to leave their chambers at the end of this building, walk through the rotunda, past the Speaker of the House's office, and into this hall, also known as Statuary Hall, before entering into the House chambers at the end of that hallway. This is also known as the Old House Chambers. It's a very popular spot among visitors to the U.S. Capitol, but on Tuesday evening, it's going to be filled to the brim with cameras and journalists trying to catch a glimpse of members of Congress, Supreme Court justices, the presidential cabinet, and even President Donald Trump himself. Now, his speech begins at 9 p.m. Eastern, and then afterwards, this hall will once again be filled with lawmakers and journalists asking for their response to what was said in the State of the Union address. Now, his address begins at 9 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday evening, and it will be aired across all major networks, including this channel.
And I want to now bring in our very talented political reporter here, Doug Reardon, here joining me. And Doug, I want to bring you in because we here at Atlanta News First don't just want to take folks out to the State of the Union address. We really want to help contextualize and analyze what the president is going to say and how this is going to move the nation forward and really give us insight into his administration's plans. Now, we talked here with Local News Live for a moment about the top issues that are key to this administration and some of what that means for the American family, the American individual, and the American wallet. I just wanted to bring you in for a moment to talk about what folks can expect out of our coverage tonight as we lead into the State of the Union address.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me on. And of course, that address is expected to start at 9. We know that this is something that is constitutionally required. It is in our founding document that the president has to at least once a year give some sort of address on the State of the Union to Congress. They work out the dates, and then it is set for once each year that a president is in office. This, of course, will be President Trump's 5th State of the Union. He also had one address to Congress in the last year of his first term that went for about 90 minutes. It was the longest address in roughly 60 years in a joint session. And so as far as timing tonight, couldn't tell you, but I know we're going to be carrying this live at 9 o'clock, and we will be joined by our political analyst, Kennesaw State Political Science Professor Dr. Ben Taylor, who we always appreciate his insight on this, and he will be providing it to us throughout the day. And so we will see everyone around then. But yeah, you know, this is there's a lot of pomp and a lot of circumstance around this particular address to Congress. They don't happen all that often. The president will make the short drive from the White House down to the Capitol. It's about 5 or 6 blocks with that motorcade. He will be escorted in by the Sergeant at Arms. He will take the dais where he will be standing in front of his Vice President J.D. Vance and Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, who is welcoming him into that chamber. There will be Supreme Court justices in the audience, and so it is a night that we always look forward to, because not only do we get a chance to get an update on the State of the Union, but it's also a chance for presidents to kind of lay out their policy, both what they've done in the past year and what they plan to do in the coming year. And we know that this will be chock full of things that will be useful to a lot of our viewers.
Can I have you do me a favor and bring the mic just a little closer to you?
Oh,
I just feel like the levels are a little off here.
There we go. I'm a quiet talker. There we go.
We'll continue the conversation here. But yeah, very important. This is an opportunity. For many, they're not following politics as intimately. They're not following really, or they're not able to keep up consistently with every moment out of this administration. And this is really a chance for them to get a pulse on the nation. And I want to start by talking about the first year, 2025, leading into 2026. Arguably, what have been the strengths and weaknesses for this administration?
Sure. And I don't think anyone should be paying this much attention to politics for their own mental health. That's what we're here for. But yeah, Trump was reelected. You know, it was really an historic ascent back into the White House after, you know, how things ended with his first term with January 6th after 2 impeachments. But he remained, was very resilient throughout that campaign and was back in the White House. Actually, the first thing that he did as president, really legislatively, is very relevant to Georgia, because it was the Laken-Riley Act. It was a bill that was shepherded through Congress by Mike Collins, who is a Georgia congressman from just north of Atlanta. And that act really set the stage for what I think was the most cornerstone piece of the Trump administration, which was immigration policy. It required, after Laken-Riley, that 22-year-old nursing student was killed by a Venezuelan man who was here in the country illegally while jogging on that UGA jogging track. What it did was require basically coordination between ICE officials who issued detainers for people who are here in the country illegally and local sheriff's offices who may be holding them in their jails. It required them to honor those ICE detainees.
The story is even more tragic because her death was completely preventable. She shouldn't have happened. And she'd never been here. Not only should her killer not have been released into our country in the first place, but he was released a second time after being arrested in New York City.
I'm beyond blessed and thankful that you're honoring not just Laken, because she's one in a ton of people that have suffered at the hands of illegal immigrants. She's not the only one. And so thank you for honoring all of them, not just Laken. And we're just beyond grateful. Thank you.
We certainly saw some of the biggest shifts in public policy throughout the first year of the Trump administration. Think back all the way to that Doge effort that was led by Elon Musk, who was in the White House at the time, that saw thousands and thousands of federal workers either put on temporary holds for their jobs or laid off entirely. It was a huge shift for departments like education, housing, many different pieces of the public service workforce were affected by this, and still to this day, we have a lot of people who are out of jobs, and the public workforce has been trimmed down quite a bit. We also saw overhauls of big departments like the Department of Education, the Department of Human Services. Certainly here at the CDC, we know that better than anyone in the world, that there were massive policy changes, political shifts, and personnel changes at the CDC and Department of Public Health. And then, of course, in July, we saw the president pass that big, beautiful bill, which I think he will reference quite a bit tonight. It was really a slog to get it through Congress and get enough votes from Democrats and both Republicans as well to get that passed, to solidify his tax cuts from his first administration that were passed in 2017, and also issuing huge cuts to programs like Medicaid and SNAP. And we still, in Georgia, certainly are talking to people on a weekly, if not daily basis, who are dealing with those things. Ending the ACA credits as well. That was, of course, what caused that government shutdown, the longest in history that we had here just after the summer ended, where we saw, of course, the expiration of those ACA credits. There were a lot of course, even Republicans who were speaking out against doing that. We still don't have a replacement for that, so there are people in Georgia right now that are going to be listening very closely to the president if he talks about health care tonight, Medicaid, Medicare tonight. Certainly that was something we know affected quite a few Georgians. It is also the 250th anniversary of the country, and so Donald Trump certainly will be expected to speak on the patriotism that brings this particular year. Of course, maybe even talking about the Epstein files. That was something that was a big piece of his administration as well. We know he has denied any wrongdoing in that case. Maybe he will again today when he gets up there.
And speaking of the Epstein files, it really seems like that is central to what folks are talking about now. We are expecting a number of those Epstein victims to be in chambers for the address. And talk about the tension that will add to the room, as you do have people accusing the president of something that is just horrendous. So having the victims in the room, having the members of Congress that have been pushing to criminally investigate the president, what does that add to what is supposed to be a speech centered around the policies that are serving the nation?
Yeah, well, it's hard to ignore. I mean, Trump has leaned heavily on his Justice Department for certain things, and they have really been behind him on not pursuing any sort of robust investigation into the Epstein files. And you're right, I think as much as the president at any given point uses the State of the Union to make a statement about policy, the guests that people bring also make quite a big statement as well. We know that Chuck Schumer, who is the leader of the Democrats in the Senate, will be bringing the mother of someone who was, he believes, wrongfully detained. And so that is clearly a commentary on Trump's immigration policy. But yeah, a couple of members have said they will be bringing Epstein victims with them, and to have them there, I think it will be difficult for the president not to address that. But again, because he has really tried to stay out of this, despite his name popping up in several of those files, he may not mention it at all. Having those victims there, certainly, they'll be able to speak to media when the address ends, probably before it as well. And so it is an opportunity for the opposition to kind of get their message out on a night like tonight as well. Of course, we'll have that official rebuttal, but yeah, certainly there's a lot of messaging going on here at the State of the Union when you have all this attention on the Capitol for that day. And keep in mind, there's going to be an empty seat in the House chambers tonight that was once filled by Marjorie Taylor Greene, a once close ally of the president. Her seat is still unfulfilled. We had that special election, that crazy special election going on right now in the 14th district to fill it. But just keep in mind that seat will be empty tonight, largely in part because of the Epstein files and Marjorie Taylor Greene's persistence in getting the Justice Department to release them, her fight to get Congress to force the Justice Department to release them through legislative action. But her seat will be empty tonight. And so if you wanted just a good indication and maybe a little Georgia tie-in as to why the Epstein files are important, just look at that empty seat tonight that was once filled by Marjorie Taylor Greene.
All roads seem to lead back to Georgia, don't they?
They do. Lucky us, yeah.
Keeps us employed at least.
Right.
I do want to talk about the 14th district and the amount of candidates that are in the running to replace Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, and asking the voters to put their faith into them as the representative in Congress and filling that seat. Let's talk about that, because we do have that full candidate forum available on ANF Plus on demand. You can watch it, you can get to know the candidates. But Trump himself made a visit to Rome, Georgia, and of course he was there to talk about the economy, his administration's work for Georgians. But it was also a presence from the president to draw attention to that District 14 special election that is currently in early voting.
President Donald Trump visited an Atlanta staple in Rome, the Varsity, across the street.
People were lined up, they had it barricaded like little gates all the way down the road.
A few miles away, Trump met with the Coosa Steel team before he gave his remarks on the economy. Tariffs top of mind.
Because the tariffs have really been a big difference.
It's been a game changer. We were competing with China. They had taken all of it. They were producing racks at $90 a piece. Our cost alone is $150. You've leveled it. The playing field's back.
And to think I have to be in the United States Supreme Court for many, many months waiting for a decision on tariffs. Without tariffs, this country would be in such trouble right now.
Trump covered many topics from tariffs to voter ID to Venezuela, but the visit was about his economy. President Trump told Georgians their incomes will increase $7,000 next year, and his plans will boost household take-home pay by over $10,000. The president, both at the Varsity and during his speech, brought up the ongoing saga surrounding the Fulton County Election Office raid.
They don't want them to see the ballot. They've taken the ballots. They have them now. After years, they got an order from the court, signed order from a very respected judge, and now they're trying to stop anybody from looking. You know why? Because they cheated like dogs.
Reporting from Rome in Floyd County, Justin Berger, Atlanta News First.
And also kind of a stump stop for his candidate as well, because the president has endorsed someone in that race. It's interesting, Marjorie Taylor Greene said she would not be making an endorsement in the race, but President Trump got in pretty early when there were still about 15, 16 GOP candidates on that one side, and there still are, by the way, and he endorsed Lookout Mountain DA, who actually just stepped down from that role, Clay Fuller. He brought him up on stage 2 different times during that rally. You can tell that this is a seat that is very important to the president. He once shared a very good relationship with Marjorie Taylor Greene. They were able to get a lot done together in Congress, and they really helped each other out quite a bit. And so you know the president is looking for an ally in whoever ends up filling this special district, whoever ends up winning the primary in this special election. Certainly Trump's endorsement is not a gold standard in Georgia. We've seen it not work before with candidates like Kelly Loeffler, Herschel Walker. But certainly, in congressional races, the president does have a lot of success in backing the right candidate. So he has backed Clay Fuller. Again, I actually think that the president's speech in Rome is going to be a little bit of a preview of what we're going to hear tonight for the State of the Union, because he was there to talk about the economy. He was there to tout some job numbers that have been really good recently, as well as falling inflation. And so if you want a good preview of what the president's going to talk about tonight when it comes to the economy, just watch his speech from Rome. I think there's going to be a lot of crossover there.
Under the last administration, every economic policy punished American workers and businesses like this one, while rewarding those who outsource to foreign nations. Under the Trump administration, our policy is the exact opposite, making it harder to outsource while rewarding those who invest, hire, grow, and build right here in the USA. Without tariffs, this country would be in such trouble right now. I'll tell you what, Republicans have to win this one. We'll never lose a race. For 50 years, we won't lose a race. We want voter ID. We want proof of citizenship. And we don't want mail-in ballots except for the military far away, except for people that are ill, disabled, or people that are away. Even for a vacation, we'll be generous, okay? Other than that, we don't want mail-in ballots, because mail-in ballots, they cheat. Without tariffs, what would you do? You know what? Everybody would be bankrupt, everybody. The whole country would be bankrupt. And I have to wait for this decision. I've been waiting forever. And the language is clear that I have the right to do it as president. I have the right to put tariffs on for national security purposes, countries that have been ripping us off for years. You know what they were doing? Using tariffs. Why, country? So sad. So just 1 year ago, under crooked Joe Biden, and he was crooked as hell, our country was dead. Now we have the hottest country. In 1 year, we have the hottest country anywhere in the world, right, California? Remember when I used to say, Fuller sort of reminded me, I listened to your speech, very good. I'm endorsing that man, by the way, very strongly. I actually listened to your speech back there, and you said, you remember when the president used to tell the story about getting tired of winning? You reminded me, I haven't told that story in a long time.
You mentioned the State of the Union is something that happens year after year, as it is expected to, but the pressure this year is exceptional with the midterm election on the horizon and plummeting approval ratings for the president himself. So he has an opportunity here, if you look at it that way, to ask the nation to restore their faith in him as he carries on into 2026, and asking Congress to do the same, with the Republican Party invested in presenting a united front. Let's talk about that pressure for the president here. Not only does he have to deliver the speech, but he does have to make sure that by the end of it, the room is turned towards him and the faith is somewhat restored.
Definitely. I mean, this will be one of the president's only opportunities ahead of the midterms to address the entire country, as well as probably his only opportunity to address a joint session of Congress, too. And so, he's going to be rallying members who are up for election, certainly. He's been traveling quite a bit lately. Before he came to Rome, Georgia, he was in Pennsylvania, he was in Iowa, he's been to Michigan, he has been all over the country stumping for these candidates, because a lot of people are expecting some sort of blue wave come the midterms. Now, I am out on the prediction game. I don't do that anymore, because it's just, nope, you can't make me. But it really, what we saw in Georgia may be an indication of it. I don't like to make predictions, but I can certainly point to trends and see that, with just those public service commission seats, for example, here in Georgia, that's a body that was controlled by Republicans for many, many years, decades, in fact, and we saw 2 Democratic candidates flip those seats. Could it be a one-off? Absolutely, but we also saw a lot of other smaller races, House races here in Georgia, especially a seat in Athens that was left open. That was flipped by a Democrat. And so certainly here in our state, there seems to be a wave towards a bluer candidate. And, we know that back in 2020, we saw something incredible happen in this what was at the time a red state of Georgia, where we had 2 Democratic senators elected. And so it is possible. I think that Trump knows that it's possible, and he is going to be not only fighting for his own, approval ratings here, but also trying to make sure that the Republican message is really there, so that when people go to the polls in November or in whenever their state's primary may be, that they're voting Republican. But yeah, like you mentioned, the president's approval ratings are historically low for him. There was a new CNN poll that was conducted by SSRC, a polling company, that came out very recently that showed that the president had, among 2,500 Americans polled, a 36% approval rating, just to give you kind of an indication. When they conducted this same poll at this time last year, right as the president came into office, that was at about 48%. And what I want to draw your attention to, and we're going to hear Ben Taylor talk a lot about this tonight, is the independents who were part of that poll. Ben is a big fan of looking at independents, independent voters, and seeing how their thoughts are being swayed, because we know how Democrats are going to feel about President Trump. We know how Republicans are going to feel about President Trump, but those independents really have nothing to lose, and so they tell us a lot. And Ben pointed out to us that among independents in that poll, there was a 73% disapproval rating, and also 70% said that Trump was bringing the country in the wrong direction. And even more than that, 77%, the highest number there of disapproval, was for Trump not paying attention close enough to the most important issue that independents feel is the economy. And that was really what Trump ran on. And so I would imagine tonight, even above anything else, foreign affairs, elections, things of that nature, the president will talk about the economy, and he'll really be giving himself a lot of pats on the back, because I know he has seen that number where independents are saying he's not paying close enough attention to the one thing he said he was going to fix in that first year, which was the economy. So he's going to talk a lot about that tonight.
The American wallet definitely at center stage tonight. And a lot of it is in the approach and whether voters agree that the president's approach is up to their standards or not. Just for those, again, many listening into this speech, trying to get context into the pulse of our nation, what has been his approach, his strategy, his way that he has demonstrated through action that he's going to turn the economy around? Because he even said that he inherited a mess, and in his eyes, he is pulling the country out of a situation that former President Joe Biden put us in, and that he is left there to clean things up, and that is why the economy isn't doing as well as it should.
Yeah, well, and just to note, inflation was falling before the president came into office. Going into his first year as he took office, inflation numbers were already down, but he is right, they have fallen farther. I think that his approach to tackling the economy and some of these affordability issues that we've been hearing about, remember it was egg prices when he came into office, has just been straight up aggression. He has ignored Congress on a lot of these things. Take the tax cuts, for example. He was really pressuring over the summer some of these Republican members to get on board with his big beautiful bill, even though there were things in there that would have been bad for their constituencies, things like elimination of tax credits for energy projects. That was really harmful to places like Dalton, for example, where they have a lot of projects. So he has been doing this through force. He has not really consulted Congress on a lot of these things. He's done hundreds of executive orders. And then, of course, there were the tariffs. That was the biggest economic tool that the president used coming into his first year of his second term to really try and shake things up. We know that at one point there were 145% tariffs on China. We heard from business owners that they were paying more for tariffs than they were for their actual products. And of course, the president is going to have to talk his way around tonight that big judicial blow that he took with the Supreme Court justices just last week declaring that those tariffs, after months and months of them being in place, were actually unconstitutional. And so the president may have overstepped a little bit, at least according to the Supreme Court justices, his authority in not consulting Congress to get those tariffs in place. So that is something I think he's going to rail against tonight. He has the Supreme Court justices sitting right in the front row. They're going to be just feet away from him. And he's already made his displeasure with them very, very public. He has tweeted about it. He has said it with his own mouth that he is disappointed in the Supreme Court justices for essentially stopping what was his biggest economic policy in those tariffs. And so he is going to really, I think, unleash on that decision tonight. I think he's going to pat himself on the back quite a bit in terms of what he thinks the tariffs have already done. He is, again, going to regurgitate a lot of things that I think we heard in that Rome speech as far as rising job numbers, lower inflation, and certainly, any manufacturing that has been brought back to the United States. Those are things that the president is going to talk about. He is not one to look on the dark side of things, because there are still a lot of lingering issues on affordability. Out in Rome the other day, the president made it very clear. He said, you don't hear anyone talk about affordability anymore. I've won affordability. There are a lot of people out there, obviously. There are probably a lot of people watching this stream right now who would disagree with that as they go to the grocery store, as they're going and getting their kids' school supplies, things of that nature. And certainly a lot of people in the Georgia legislature, I think, would disagree with the president. The Republican-led House, the Republican-led Senate said point blank a couple weeks ago at the beginning of the legislative session that affordability was their biggest issue. We're seeing income tax manipulations. We're seeing property tax relief. We're seeing the governor give back money in the form of rebates to people through his latest budget. And so I don't think that many people, even Republicans in the Georgia legislature here in our state, would agree with the president that affordability is an issue that has been won. I think he will still tonight try and make it seem like he has at least done better on that than maybe even some folks would give him credit for tonight when he gives that speech.
Yeah, and speaking of giving credit, let's talk about the opposition party, the Democratic reaction to all of this. We are expecting to hear from Democratic leaders following the State of the Union address from the president. But so far, looking at the second term, year one, what has been the Democrats' role in their relationship to this president?
Well, it's been more adversarial than I've ever seen between a party and the sitting president. Pennsylvania governor, newly elected Pennsylvania Governor Abigail Spanberger is going to be giving that Democratic response tonight. It is always very fiery, and it is always very full of a lot of contradictions to what the president has said, no matter which party is giving that rebuttal. But Democrats certainly have played an interesting role in the president's first term. They have had just barely enough power to try to stop a lot of these things. We saw that with the big beautiful bill over the summer, where that almost didn't clear because Republicans couldn't convince enough Democrats in the Senate to get on board. Certainly, obviously, right, we saw it in the middle of that government shutdown when they were trying to hold out for a renewal of those Affordable Care Act tax credits that ended up leading to the longest government shutdown in American history. So Democrats aren't powerless here. They certainly can do a lot. They certainly have tried to do a lot. But in the end, the big beautiful bill passed. The ACA funding expired. I think where Democrats have been especially effective here in the first term, the first year of the Trump administration, has been on immigration. They have really fought back against some of these Operation Metro surges that have been going on in cities famously, right? Like Minneapolis, where 2 U.S. citizens, high profile at least on those instances, were killed by ICE agents. Democrats have really, not only at the federal level, but also here at the state level, tried to be visible on fighting back against these Metro surge operations, and have been doing a good job, because we know that there are certainly plenty of polls out there that show that Americans are not super happy with these operations, especially when they're killing American citizens, lawfully abiding American citizens who are carrying, in the case of Alex Preddy. But you know, I think that tonight you're going to hear a lot about the economy from Democrats and how the president is putting rose-colored glasses on some of these figures. And I think you're also going to hear a lot about the president's aggressive immigration operations and Democrats' staunch opposition to the way that that's being done. So just listen out for those two things.
And I want to talk about accountability for a moment. You know, this address to Congress is usually a time to call on bipartisanship and working together for the American people. What has arguably been the biggest mistake that Democrats have made in trying to work alongside or under this administration?
You know, I think as far as mistakes, I can just point to the government shutdown. I think there were a lot of people who, you know, where Democrats in the past have said they do not want to shut down the government over X, Y, and Z, and then did exactly that. You know, I can only speak from our experience here in Georgia in telling you that there were a lot of CDC workers who certainly were unhappy with the length that that shutdown went to, and there were a lot of ACA people who felt that here in Georgia that the Democrats didn't fight as hard as they should on trying to restore those tax credits, because again, there is no replacement for them. Republicans kind of left folks who were using those premiums high and dry, and so I think there are people who want Democrats to be more aggressive. Mm-hmm. Maybe you'll hear that in the rebuttal tonight, but at least here in Georgia, you know, we even hear that about Democrats at the state level as well, in the state House and state Senate, that voters really want them to be more aggressive in the way that they tackle some of these Republican bills, especially on health care, gun control. We've seen a lot of trans issues pop up here in Georgia that people wish Democrats would fight back harder on. So I think people are looking for a little more backbone, and maybe we'll hear that tonight in the Democrats' rebuttal.
Yeah, certainly a lot to watch out for. I'm curious, you watch the State of the Union addresses year after year. Anything in particular that you're looking closely to?
Let's see.
Not to put you on the spot.
Nope, that's okay, because it's always unpredictable with Trump, right? So again, no predictions from me. But what I would listen for is how the president talks about immigration, right? We've had those two very high-profile instances of U.S. citizens who were killed. The president had assured people at the beginning of these Metro surge operations that he was going to be going after the worst of the worst, the criminals, the people who have long rap sheets, the people who, you know, have ICE detainers, and yet here we are, where we see a majority of Americans unhappy with these immigration raids. Nothing has been more important to the president, even despite the economy, than these immigration operations and these Department of Homeland Security policies, because immigration was really what he ran on the first time and the second time, I think even more so than the economy. And so I would listen very closely to how the president discusses immigration, whether he touts all these operations as a success, and what he's looking for DHS and ICE to do in the future.
You mentioned having analyst Ben Taylor here joining us and providing some of the context of what we're going to hear tonight at 9 p.m. Again, streaming on ANF Plus and live on Atlanta News First. I want to make sure that people understand, obviously they come and watch this screen and they're thinking about themselves, their families, their livelihoods, and they walk away with the understanding of how this applies to them. Here on the local level in Georgia, what can we expect to trickle down as we watch the president in 2026 leading up to 2028?
Well, on that, I think because immigration isn't as much of a front and center focus for us here, we don't have any operations going on in Atlanta, so to speak, right? We know ICE is here, but, you know, I think the economy is really what people are going to want to hear about. about. We have all these affordability measures at the local level that people are very familiar with: the property tax relief, the income tax relief, tax rebates, as we mentioned already. And so, because we continue to hear these issues of affordability, and even talking to some of those who are in attendance at the president's rally out in Rome, last week, before the president even got on stage, we had asked them, what are you looking forward to hearing from them? And they said, we just want to hear how he's going to make the economy better. So that is what is on the mind, I think, of average, everyday Georgians. How much money can you put back in my pocket? How much money can you save me right now? How much can you bring prices down? I really hope that for their sake, the president doesn't just play up to what he's done right. I hope that he talks about what he's going to do in the next year of his administration to continue bringing prices down for people, so that it is not the job of the state legislatures solely to make sure that people can afford what they need to.
I want to play a fun game with you, Doug, here. We talk about the next 12 months, because that really is going to be the key focus of what is the mission for the president between now and the next time we hear from him from his third State of the Union address. What would you, I know you don't do predictions, but what would you say would be the one headline that we could see out of these next 12 months?
Out of the next 12 months, I think that would be probably something having to do with foreign policy, honestly. Right, remember, we still have a lot going on in the Middle East with Israel and Palestine. There was actually recently an arms sale that the U.S. participated in. There we still have the Ukraine and Russia conflict that is raging. But I think something to do with Iran, if I'm being honest. There's a nuclear program that the Obama administration, dating back all the way to then, had tried to dismantle. The president said he is not ruling out using force to get Iran to give up any nuclear weapons that they have. And so I think the biggest thing to look out for over the next 12 months is, what other foreign policy issues does the president take on? Could it be an open conflict in Iran? Could it be the ending of one of those conflicts either in Ukraine or in the Middle East? We'll have to wait and see. But certainly, we know Jimmy Carter here in the U.S., or here in Georgia, I should say, when he was president, foreign policy and the economy were two things that were really heavy on his plate. And it's funny, for as much as the president does not like Jimmy Carter, he says that very openly at his rallies, they actually are in a really similar position here, where the president is dealing with these very intense economic issues, high levels of inflation, and a really precarious point for the economy here in the U.S., and also dealing with a lot of foreign policy issues. As we know, Jimmy Carter had to deal with the Iranian hostage crisis, ironically, and now we see the president facing issues with Iran again as well. And so I think the president might want to look a little deeper on some of the connections he has with Jimmy Carter as he speaks about him at rallies here in Georgia.
If you could get in the room with President Trump again, let's say ahead of his speech tonight, what's the one thing you'd ask?
I would ask him what his plans are to lower prices, because he really said, this is a direct quote, I won affordability. That's what he said last week when he was here on Thursday in Rome. And I would just ask him how he measures that, because certainly, I can speak from my own experience. I'm still having, the same sticker shock when I go to the grocery store. We would love to buy a new car, but right now it's just too expensive. And so my question for the president ahead of tonight's address would be the question that I think is on the minds of all Americans right now, which is, how can you make my life more affordable?
Yeah, and we are going to get into that here tonight. Again, the president's speech is taking place at 9 o'clock. He's expected to speak for multiple hours, and then, of course, we will bring you analysis, contextualizations, and have a more broad conversation of what this means for Congress on the federal level, and then what it means for Georgia policymakers. I kind of want to tease that a little bit, Doug, as we are going to see the Democratic reaction, but what about the local reaction from both political parties here in the Peach State?
I don't think we'll have any shortage of that, not just tonight, but over the next week or so, too. Democrats in the State House and the State Senate have been very quick to sound off on the president's policies. We know that actually even, let's take the ACA credits, for example, even before those expired just a couple of months ago during that long government shutdown, the Democrats had a bill ready to go to kind of replace those ACA subsidies at the state level. And so Democrats here have not only been reactive to what the president has done, but also a bit proactive proactive as well. And throughout the first year of his administration, now that they're back in session under the Gold Dome, there's been a lot of talk about how Donald Trump's policies have impacted everyday Georgians from Democrats, whether it be SNAP benefits, whether it be Medicaid, because the state still refuses to expand the state's Medicaid program, whether it be health care or whether it be affordability. I think that certainly Democrats have been in the process of responding to Donald Trump ever since they got back under the Gold Dome for this legislative session.
And we talk about year two being really a ramp up for the president. The midterms might change how he is able to operate in Congress, in his policy shaping. He's also looking at his legacy, and we can see some of that play out in some of his remarks and some of the issues that he is after. For this president, obviously he cannot run again, but what is the legacy that he is looking to leave?
You should tell him he can't run again. He's already made some suggestions that perhaps he might go for a third term. I think the legacy he's trying to leave, if you look at it from his eyes, is really to be the economic president. You know, he came up as a famous businessman, as a closer, as a deal maker, and certainly I think that the president wanted to come in to what he thought was a broken economy and fix it. And if he can do that, you know, if he's looking at the right numbers and if he's talking to the right people who are experiencing this really tough economy right now, I think that'll be his legacy. I think he also wants to be known as a deal maker in foreign affairs too, and that's why I keep harping back to some of these open conflicts that we have in the Middle East and Ukraine and right now in Iran as well, potentially. You know, he had said coming into this, I'm going to end those wars on week one or day one or whatever it was he said, and yet they are still raging. And so I think the president, if he wants to stick to his own word, is going to have to end some of these foreign conflicts or at least do something with them to tamp down the temperature in those regions as well. His legacy, I think, is already cemented in his mind. I think he truly believes himself when he says that he is the greatest president of all time. That was something that a lot of people on stage at his rally in Rome on Thursday said as they stood next to him and pointed at him. And so, you know, the president will always write his own legacy, I think, but on the economy and foreign affairs, those are two issues that would really define any presidency.
Yeah, most certainly. It has time and time again, it seems. Final takeaways, thoughts. We are heading in and gearing up for the man of the hour. And again, listening in with the members of Congress, with the nation into these remarks and kind of looking to the future. But for you right now in this preview hour, any final thoughts, Doug?
Not much, except to say that I hope the president is speaking to the Americans who did not vote for him, is what I'll say. You know, a lot of times this can be a victory lap. A lot of times this can be a pat on the back for what you've done over the course of the last year. Not a lot of presidents focus on what they have not been able to tackle or what they want to by the next time they see Congress for their second State of the Union address. And so I would just hope that the president is speaking to all Americans tonight and, you know, is addressing even those people who do not believe in the policies that he's trying to put in place.
Well said. And we, of course, are going to take you through the full State of the Union address here. Again, you can watch it in multiple places. We'll take it on air for you on Atlanta News First, on ANF Plus, which we will make available on demand if you are not able to tune in live with us. And you can download the Atlanta News First app. We'll send you a push notification as soon as those
News First. Live coverage of the State of the Union address.
Tonight, live pictures show you the U.S. Capitol building lit up, where inside members of Congress, Supreme Court justices, as well as the Vice President and other special invited guests are awaiting President Donald Trump's State of the Union address. Thank you so much for joining us for our live team coverage tonight. I'm Blair Miller.
And I'm Tracy Hutchins. The official theme of this year's address is America at 250, strong, prosperous, and respected. This will be the president's fourth overall State of the Union address. It comes at a crucial time in terms of his popularity. Numbers from CNN show his approval ratings are down more than 10% when compared to last year.
When asked whether the president has the right priorities, nearly 70% of people surveyed said no.
Well, tonight we have team coverage dedicated to dissecting tonight's address and focusing on how it impacts you.
We have Dr. Ben Taylor with us, political science professor and Atlanta News First political analyst, in studio with us tonight, along with Atlanta News First political reporter Doug Reardon. Let's start there with Doug. The president, as you know, Doug, is expected to address several issues in this speech tonight, including ones that have had a direct impact to life here in Metro Atlanta.
Well, certainly, guys, it seems like everything has a direct connection to Atlanta, right? But immigration is expected to be a huge talking point this evening. The issue has had a huge impact across Metro Atlanta, as well as the state of Georgia at large. From the start of the second Trump administration through August 15th, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, recorded more than 8,500 confirmed arrests here in our state. That makes Georgia the fourth most prolific state for ICE arrests nationwide, behind only 3 states with much larger foreign-born populations. That would be Texas, Florida, and California. And Georgia is quickly becoming a hotspot for the agency as well. 2 facilities, we've learned, are coming to Metro Atlanta. The Department of Homeland Security bought land in both Hall County with the intentions of turning it into a detention center east of Atlanta, and in Social Circle, a so-called mega center capable of housing up to 10,000 detainees is scheduled to be built there. And a deadly crash involving ICE agents in Savannah also dominating headlines this year. Investigators say a man in the country illegally from Guatemala ran into a teacher. According to police, ICE agents were chasing that man at the time this happened. Local officials say alerting police officers who have strict no-chase policies could have prevented that deadly collision. Republican Congressman Buddy Carter addressed this crash with a different opinion, though, saying that Democrats are to blame.
We've had a tragedy in my hometown of Savannah, Georgia, where one of our beloved teachers was killed by an illegal immigrant who was fleeing, who was resisting arrest. This should have never happened. I would submit to you that the Democrats have blood on their hands as a result of this. The rhetoric that they have been engaged in, where they're encouraging people to resist, to not comply with ICE, that's led to all this.
Of course, Democrats might disagree on that, but moving on, the economy as a whole is also expected to get a lot of airtime tonight, maybe more than anything else. Here in Georgia, the unemployment rate is sitting at 3.5%, which is below the national average. Last year, Georgia also added more than 16,000 jobs. And we know, of course, the governor, many state legislators like to talk about the job Georgia is doing on the economy. Congressman Allen, also speaking on the economy, said that President Trump should tout the administration's economic plan. He said the president is working to deliver financial relief for Americans, but it is, again, Democrats who are pushing back.
We're setting the table. And if we can just get a little cooperation from the opposition party, we can have a feast in 2026. But again, they're standing in the way of everything.
Well, maybe a little buyer's remorse tonight from some Georgia voters who did support President Trump in the past. A handful say the promises of affordable groceries and robust economies have fallen flat. Others say it is all part of a much larger plan.
Right now, I'm not seeing much for myself. I'm a small business owner. I have a flower shop here, and I probably just experienced the worst Valentine in my 45-year career as a florist. And I'm not sure if it was it being on the weekend or if it was the economy. I'm not sure.
Grocery prices are better, are down. Gas prices are down. The affordability is a big issue, and everything is more affordable since President Trump has been in office, and we're all making a little more money, I think. So the economy is improving under President Trump.
Well, right now we're looking inside the chamber there, of course, as we await the president coming in. Just a few minutes ago, we, of course, saw the cabinet members there at the dais. We see, of course, Vice President J.D. Vance and House Speaker, the House Speaker as well. And, of course, we can see a number of cabinet members there. It's kind of like a who's who. Tulsi Gabbard there in front of the camera, as a number of people have kind of mull about and, of course, wait for the president to walk in.
Of course, we have a couple of locals in the cabinet, Kelly Loeffler and Doug Collins, part of the cabinet, making their way in there right now. And I believe we saw Kelly Loeffler just a few minutes ago walking in. And, you know, these seats right there on the aisle, that is prime real estate for many of these lawmakers. Some of them spend hours just to get that seat so they can get that picture with the president as he walks in, especially those lawmakers who are running up for a re-election in the midterm elections. That is a key time for them to be able to have a moment with the president, but more importantly, get that picture with the president. And that is who we're waiting on come into the gallery here in a moment, and that announcement may be made by the Sergeant at Arms here. Let's listen in for a second.
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
So now the president making his way down that aisle toward the podium, and this, if you've watched the State of the Union, certainly takes a while for the president stopping to shake those hands, exchanging some brief words with lawmakers. And oftentimes when this is happening, the length and the tone of this walk often will reflect the broader political climate that we are under as the president arrives here in the gallery right now.
Yeah, certainly a lot of handshaking, some kisses there as well. Certainly his supporters there, as you mentioned, all kind of lining up and to be some of the first there to greet the president as he walks into the chamber there and give him a pat on the back, shake of the hand, and really kind of help motivate him during tonight's speech.
While we're watching these live pictures, and we're going to keep the live pictures up, we do want to bring in our political analyst, Dr. Ben Taylor, who is here with us tonight. I know you're watching these live pictures with us. We appreciate you walking us through with our coverage and really making it all make sense with what the president is about to say here tonight. It certainly is a big moment for this president. He knows it, his staff knows it, knowing there is a lot at stake, and he needs to get this message right tonight.
Absolutely, and I think the poll data that you showed earlier sort of indicates what he's up against. He's got some real headwinds, and if the president is unpopular, his party does not do well in midterm elections. And that's what this is really all about. This speech tonight, in the best case scenario for President Trump and the Republicans, needs to be a springboard to take them into the midterm election season and give them some momentum so that they can hopefully blunt possible Democratic gains in the House and Senate.
And how does he do that? You know, what could a win look like? Because, of course, we've been talking about this. We hear it from a lot of people here in Georgia. Affordability, tariffs, of course, immigration, those are the major key points. But in whatever time he takes tonight, which we've heard it could be a very long speech, what does he really need to hit on to help those Republicans running for office in the midterms?
Well, that's a great question. And the main thing that any president wants to do in a State of the Union address in a midterm election year is tell the American people what good things they've done, remind them of those things, explain how the president's agenda and the Congress in power at the moment, which is a Republican Congress, has done these things, and then tell them what they're going to do for the future. Because the bottom line is Americans don't see a lot of these positive things in their day-to-day life, as evidenced by some poll data that we've seen. And the task of this speech is to lay the groundwork so that Republicans can hammer the same message over the remainder of the year. Of course, life comes into play. Other issues will come up. We have foreign policy things that are happening all the time as well. But Americans care about the economy, and they do not feel like the economy is working for them in general. And that's really the message that they want to hear about is what are you going to do on the economy?
Oftentimes when we have a State of the Union, immediately after the State of the Union, the president takes that message on the road to different parts of the country. How much of this tonight is it campaigning by the president, but also being a sitting president?
Well, I think it's really sort of a both and, right? You want to do both of those things. You want to seem presidential giving the speech. You want to seem like you have command of the issues and that you are the leader of the United States government. But at the same time, you want to give a rah-rah speech to your true believers, but also, and this is crucial, give moderates and independents reason to think, hey, yeah, that's right. That's why I like this guy, or that's why I liked this guy when I voted for him or thought about voting for him in the last election. And that's a really hard thing to do if you're unpopular.
Yeah, for those people who are independent, and of course we'll cut this conversation short as soon as the president begins to speak. For those who are independent, how do you really convey to those voters there that that Republicans are the party to go with? Because we have concerns, obviously, about tariffs that, you know, many people, the president said that this is going to put more money in your pocket. Americans have not seen that.
That's right. And some of the plans and policies that they put in place through the big, beautiful bill, for instance, and some of the tax cuts are somewhat convoluted and deep in the tax code, and it's hard to get some of them. And so that stuff is just hard to demonstrate to Americans. And so the key is to be very clear and specific with how you've made life better, and also be clear and specific about how you'll make life better in the future.
I'm curious what you're listening for tonight. I feel like so many people are listening for different things. We tend to listen for these big new ideas that maybe come out, the news that comes out of this, but then there's certainly the optics that come out of this as well. But what are you listening for tonight? We may have to jump away as soon as he starts here, but what are you listening for tonight?
I'm listening for, is he going to talk about specific issues in ways that talk directly to moderates and independents, or is he going to do a greatest hits of what he does on the road?
All right, Dr. Ben Taylor, thank you. Right now, let's listen in to President Trump as he delivers his State of the Union address.
Well, thank you very much, everybody. It's really an honor. Speaker Johnson, Vice President Vance, First Lady of the United States. Second Lady of the United States. Members of Congress and my fellow Americans, our nation is back, bigger, better, richer, and stronger than ever before. Less than 5 months from now, our country will celebrate an epic milestone in American history, the 250th anniversary of our glorious American independence. This July 4th, we will mark 2.5 centuries of liberty and triumph, progress and freedom in the most incredible and exceptional nation ever to exist on the face of the earth. And you've seen nothing yet. We're going to do better and better and better. This is the golden age of America. When I last spoke in this chamber 12 months ago, I had just inherited a nation in crisis with a stagnant economy, inflation at record levels, a wide open border, horrendous recruitment for military and police, rampant crime at home, and wars and chaos all over the world. But tonight, after just 1 year, I can say with dignity and pride that we have achieved a transformation like no one has ever seen before, and a turnaround for the ages. It is indeed a turnaround for the ages. And we will never go back to where we were just a very short time ago. We're not going back. Today, our border is secure. Thank you. Today, our border is secure. Our spirit is restored. Inflation is plummeting. Incomes are rising fast. The roaring economy is roaring like never before. And our enemies are scared. Our military and police are stacked. And America is respected again, perhaps like never before. After 4 years in which millions and millions of illegal aliens poured across our borders, totally unvetted and unchecked, we now have the strongest and most secure border in American history by far. In the past 9 months, 0 illegal aliens have been admitted to the United States. But we will always allow people to come in legally, people that will love our country and will work hard to maintain our country. The flow of deadly fentanyl across our border is down by a record 56% in 1 year. And last year, the murder rate saw its single largest decline in recorded history. This is the biggest decline, think of it, in recorded history, the lowest number in over 125 years, year 1900. In fact, substantially before my wonderful father, I had a wonderful father, Fred, before he was born, substantially before he was born. That's a long time ago. He wouldn't like me to say that, but that's a long time ago. The Biden administration and its allies in Congress gave us the worst inflation in the history of our country. But in 12 months, my administration has driven core inflation down to the lowest level in more than 5 years. And in the last 3 months of 2025, it was down to 1.7%. Gasoline, which reached a peak of over $6 a gallon in some states under my predecessor, it was quite honestly a disaster, is now below $2.30 a gallon in most states, and in some places, $1.99 a gallon. And when I visited the great state of Iowa just a few weeks ago, I even saw $1.85 a gallon for gasoline. Mortgage rates are the lowest in 4 years and falling fast, and the annual cost of a typical new mortgage is down almost $5,000 just since I took office. 1 year. And low interest rates will solve the Biden-created housing problem while at the same time protecting the values of those people who already own a house that really feel rich for the first time in their lives. We want to protect those values. We want to keep those values up. We're going to do both. And we are going to keep it that way. The stock market has set 53 all-time record highs since the election. Think of that, 1 year. Boosting pensions, 401ks, and retirement accounts for the millions and millions of Americans. They're all gaining. Everybody's up, way up. In 4 long years, the last administration got less than $1 trillion in new investment in the United States. And when I say less, substantially less. In 12 months, I secured commitments for more than $18 trillion pouring in from all over the globe. Think of it, much less than $1 trillion for 4 years versus much more than $18 trillion for 1 year. What a difference a president makes. A short time ago, we were a dead country. Now we are the hottest country anywhere in the world, the hottest. As thousands of new businesses are forming and factories, plants, and laboratories are being built, we have added 70,000 new construction jobs in just a very short period of time. It's getting bigger and bigger and stronger. Nobody can believe what they're watching. American oil production is up by more than 600,000 barrels a day, and we just received from our new friend and partner, Venezuela, more than 80 million barrels of oil. American natural gas production is at an all-time high because I kept my promise to drill, baby, drill. More Americans are working today than at any time in the history of our country. Think about that. Any time in the history of our country, more working today. And 100% of all jobs created under my administration have been in the private sector. We ended DEI in America. We cut a record number of job-killing regulations, and in 1 year we have lifted 2.4 million Americans, a record, off of food stamps. And for all of these reasons, I say tonight, members of Congress, the state of our union is strong. Our country is winning again. In fact, we're winning so much that we really don't know what to do about it. People are asking me, please, 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 Mr. President, we're winning too much. We can't take it anymore. We're not used to winning in our country. Until you came along, we're just always losing, but now we're winning too much. And I say, no, 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 you're going to win again. You're going to win big. You're going to win bigger than ever. And to prove that point, here with us tonight is a group of winners who just made the entire nation proud. The men's gold medal Olympic hockey team. Come on in. That's the first time I've ever seen them get up. And actually, not all of them did get up. But they beat a fantastic Canadian team in overtime, as everybody saw, as did the American women who will soon be coming to the White House. They were in the Oval Office before, and I just want to say a second very big congratulations to Team USA. But I have to say that, and I told them this, and we took a vote of the team. I said, anybody votes no, I'm not doing it. So they stood there, and they weren't about to say no, because I've never seen a goaltender play as well as goalie Connor Hellebuck. Think of it, 46 shots on goal, and I asked him, the one shot, the one where you put your stick in the back and it hit the neck of your stick and bounced off, do you practice that, or was that a little lucky? He refused to answer that question. But I just want to tell you that the members of this great hockey squad will be very happy to hear, based on their vote and my vote, and in this case my vote was more important, that I will soon be presenting Connor with our highest civilian honor, which we will be given and which has been given to many athletes over the years. But when I say many, not too many, like 12, it's called the highest civilian honor in our country, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Great athletes have gotten that, very great, the best, and I thought he deserved it. And I did take a vote, every single one of them. I said, I'm not giving it if anybody goes no, and every single one of them rapidly put up their hand. So I want to thank you all. What a special job you did. What special champions you are. Thank you very much. I'm also pleased to say that the next time the Olympic torch is lit, it will be here in America for the 2028 Olympics, and it's the summer version right in Los Angeles. We're going to do a good job in Los Angeles. And Los Angeles is going to be safe, just like Washington, D.C. is now one of the safest cities in the country. And this year, and I must say I got them both. I got them in my first term, and I was disappointed because I didn't think I'd be the president when this happened. But strange things took place. And now I've got them because I got the Olympics, I got the 2026 FIFA World Cup, and I wanted to claim the 250th, but I didn't get away with that one. I couldn't claim that one for myself. But we're getting the World Cup, so we have the World Cup and the Olympics coming, and that is exciting news. So this will be a year to celebrate our country and the heroes who have kept it free. Men like Buddy Taggart. At age 17, Buddy volunteered to defend America in World War II, serving in the Pacific under the great General Douglas MacArthur. He fought bravely in the famous Battle of Manila, worked so hard. He was badly wounded and almost killed by enemy machine guns in Luzon. And 81 years ago this month, he liberated the largest internment camp in the Philippines, one of the largest anywhere in the world. But he earned many honors, including a Purple Heart and a Bronze Star, came home, started a family, and tonight he is in the gallery looking forward to July 4th, 2026, his 100th birthday. So, Buddy, you're a brave man, and we salute you. Even in times of challenge, setback, and immense heartache, the spirit of 1776 has always shone through very brightly. It was July 4th of last year when floodwaters tore through a girls' summer camp in Central Texas, one of the worst things I've ever seen. I was there, rising 26 feet in the matter of minutes, tragically claiming many, many lives. You all remember that one. As the waters threatened to sweep her away, 11-year-old Millie Kate McClelland closed her eyes and prayed to God. She thought she was going to die. Those prayers were answered when Coast Guard rescue swimmer Scott Ruskin descended from a helicopter above. Nobody knew where he came from. It was Scott's first ever rescue mission, a young guy, but very brave, very, very top, always top in his class, and he lifted not just Millie Kate, but 164 others to safety. People watched Scott from a distance, and they couldn't believe what they were seeing. The winds were blowing, the rain was pouring, everything was going, and that rapid water, nobody's ever seen anything like it. They said, wow, that's something. Tonight, Scott and Millie Kate are here together, reunited for the very first time. Thank you, Scott, Millie Kate. And Petty Officer Ruskin, I'm pleased to inform you that I am now awarding you the Legion of Merit for extraordinary heroism, which is what it was, extraordinary heroism. Thank you. And I'd like to have the military aide to please come down and take care of the service. Military aide, thank you very much. Take care of that very important service. Thank you very much. From 1776 to today, every generation of Americans has stepped forward to defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And they're really doing it for the next generation. But now it's our turn. Together we're building a nation where every child has the chance to reach higher and go further, where government answers to the people, not the powerful, and where the interests of hardworking American citizens are always our first and ultimate concern. That is the debt we owe to the heroes who came before us, and that is the promise we must keep to America for our 250th year. Last year, I urged this Congress to begin the mission by passing the largest tax cuts in American history, and our Republican majorities delivered so beautifully. Thank you, Republicans. All Democrats, every single one of them, voted against these really important and very necessary massive tax cuts. They wanted large-scale tax increases to hurt the people instead. But we held strong, and with the great, big, beautiful bill, we gave you no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security for our great seniors. And we also made interest on auto loans tax deductible the first time, but only if the car is made in America. Recently in Pennsylvania, I met Megan Hemhauser, a devoted mom who's homeschools her children, beautiful, 2 children, during the day while waiting tables at night as her husband works overtime operating very heavy equipment. Megan is here this evening, and she's happy to tell you that she is so much richer because with no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and our expanded child tax credit done again by Republicans, Megan and her husband will take home more than $5,000 extra just for the year, cutting her tax bill in more than half. Megan, please stand up. We're fighting for you, Megan. Thank you, Megan. We're fighting for you, Megan. Under our bill, parents like Megan can also activate their children's brand new Trump accounts. And I didn't name it. I did not name that. Nobody believes me, but I did not name it. It was named by a very tall man sitting right there in the third row. Nice man, a good man. Tax-free investment accounts for every American child. This is something that's so special and has taken off and gone through the roof. Millions will be pre-funded courtesy of the U.S. Treasury and private individuals like Michael and Susan Dell, who have donated $6.25 billion to fund the Trump accounts for 25 million American children. They're great people. When I asked Michael Dell, how do you make all that money? He said, well, I just sat on my dorm in school, and I made computers, and I'd sell them to people, and I just kept selling and selling and selling, and pretty amazing story. That's called the American dream. He sold a lot of computers, a lot of those laptops, so I congratulate him on that, but I really thank him and Susan, as well as others like Brad Gerstner, a very tremendous guy. He was behind it right from the beginning. Brad Gerstner. Thank you, Brad. So with modest additional contributions, these young people's accounts could grow to over $100,000 or more by the time they turn 18. Think of it, how much money is that for somebody that started with nothing? Over 100,000, could be much more than that. To make this investment in our children's future, go to trumpaccounts.gov, trumpaccounts.gov. And a lot of people are doing it. It's setting every record in the book. It's popular. They knew what it was going to take. I'm so proud of them. I'm so proud of the people that got it started. And now it's just taken off. One of the primary reasons for our country's stunning economic turnaround, the biggest in history, where the Dow Jones broke 50,000 4 years ahead of schedule, and the S&P hit 7,000, where it wasn't supposed to do it for many years, were tariffs. I used these tariffs, took in hundreds of billions of dollars to make great deals for our country, both economically and on a national security basis. Everything was working well. Countries that were ripping us off for decades are now paying us hundreds of billions of dollars. They were ripping us so badly, you all know that. Everybody knows it. Even the Democrats know it. They just don't want to say it. And yet these countries are now happy, and so are we. We made deals. The deals are all done. And they're happy. They're not making money like they used to, but we're making a lot of money. There was no inflation, tremendous growth, and the big story was how Donald Trump called the economy correctly, and 22 Nobel Prize winners in economics didn't. They got it totally wrong. They got it really wrong. And then just 4 days ago, an unfortunate ruling from the United States Supreme Court. It just came down. It came down. Very unfortunate ruling. But the good news is that almost all countries and corporations want to keep the deal that they already made, right, Scott? Knowing that the legal power that I, as president, have to make a new deal could be far worse for them, and therefore they will continue to work along the same successful path that we had negotiated before the Supreme Court's unfortunate involvement. So despite the disappointing ruling, these powerful, country-saving, it's saving our country, the kind of money we're taking in, peace-protecting. Many of the wars I settled was because of the threat of tariffs. I wouldn't have been able to settle them without. Will remain in place under fully approved and tested alternative legal statutes. And they have been tested for a long time. They're a little more complex, but they're actually probably better, leading to a solution that will be even stronger than before. Congressional action will not be necessary. It's already time-tested and approved. And as time goes by, I believe the tariffs paid for by foreign countries will, like in the past, substantially replace the modern-day system of income tax, taking a great financial burden off the people that I love. Right? Moving forward, factories, jobs, investment, and trillions of dollars will continue pouring into the United States of America because we finally have a president who puts America first. I put America first. I love America. For decades before I came along, we had the exact opposite. From trade to healthcare, from energy to immigration, everything was stolen and rigged in order to drain the wealth out of the productive, hardworking people who make our country great, who make our country run. Under Biden and his corrupt partners in Congress and beyond, it reached a breaking point with the Green New scam, open borders for everyone. They poured in by the millions and millions from prisons, from mental institutions. They were murderers, 11,888 murders. They came into our country. You allowed that to happen. And record-setting inflation that cost the typical family $34,000 in just a speck of time. Now the same people in this chamber who voted for those disasters suddenly used the word affordability, a word, they just used it. Somebody gave it to them, knowing full well that they caused and created the increased prices that all of our citizens had to endure. You caused that problem. You caused that problem. They knew their statements were a lie. They knew it. They knew their statements were a dirty, rotten lie. Their policies created the high prices. Our policies are rapidly ending them. We are doing really well. Those prices are plummeting downward. The price of eggs is down 60%, Madam Secretary, thank you. The cost of chicken, butter, fruit, hotels, automobiles, rent is lower today than when I took office by a lot. And even beef, which was very high, is starting to come down significantly. Just hold on a little while, we're getting it down. And soon you will see numbers that few people would think were possible to achieve just a short time ago. Nobody can believe when they see the kind of numbers, and especially energy, when they see energy going down to numbers like that, they cannot believe it. It's like another big tax cut. I'm also confronting one of the biggest ripoffs of our times, the crushing cost of health care caused by you. Since the passage of the Unaffordable Care Act, sometimes referred to as Obamacare, big insurance companies have gotten rich. It was meant for the insurance companies, not for the people. With our government giving them hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars a year as their stock prices soared 1,000, 1,200, 1,400, and even 1,700%, like nothing else. That's why I introduced the great health care plan. I want to stop all payments to big insurance companies and instead give that money directly to the people so they can buy their own health care, which will be better health care at a much lower cost. In addition, my plan requires maximum price transparency. That's a big deal. Sounds so simple, so big. And I did that in my first term, and the Democrats immediately terminated it with full knowledge that they were doing a very bad thing for the people. Costs were going to go way up, and that's what happened, and now I'm bringing them way down on health care and everything else. I'm also ending the wildly inflated cost of prescription drugs like has never happened before. Other presidents tried to do it, but they never could. They tried. Most didn't try, actually. But they tried. They said they tried. They couldn't do it. They didn't even come close. They were all talk and no action, but I got it done. Under my just enacted most favored nation agreements, Americans who have for decades paid by far the highest prices of any nation anywhere in the world for prescription drugs will now pay the lowest price anywhere in the world for drugs. Anywhere, the lowest price. So in my first year of the second term, should be my third term, but strange things happen. I took prescription drugs, a very big part of health care, from the highest price in the entire world to the lowest. That's a big achievement. The result is price differences of 300, 400, 500, 600% and more, all available right now at a new website called TrumpRx.gov. And I didn't name that one either, by the way. And here tonight is the very first customer ever to get that big discount, and it is big, Catherine Rayner. For 5 years, she and her husband have struggled with infertility, and they turned to IVF. One drug has been costing Catherine $4,000 to purchase. But a few weeks ago, she logged onto the Trump RX website and got that same drug that cost $4,000, got it for under $500, a reduction of much more, actually, than $3,500. Catherine, we are all praying for you, and you're going to be a great mom. So now I'm calling on Congress to codify my most favored nation program into law. Now, the one thing, I'm not sure it matters because it's going to be very hard for somebody that comes along after me to say, let's raise drug prices by 700 or 800%. But John and Mike, if you don't mind, codify it anyway. They may do it. Codify it anyway. Thank you. Many Americans are also concerned that energy demand from AI data centers could unfairly drive up their electric utility bills. Tonight, I'm pleased to announce that I have negotiated the new Ratepayer Protection Pledge. You know what that is? We're telling the major tech companies that they have the obligation to provide for their own power needs. They can build their own power plants as part of their factory so that no one's prices will go up. And in many cases, prices of electricity will go down for the community, and very substantially down. This is a unique strategy never used in this country before. We have an old grid. It could never handle the kind of numbers, the amount of electricity that's needed. So I'm telling them they can build their own plant. They're going to produce their own electricity. It will ensure the company's ability to get electricity while at the same time lowering prices of electricity for you, and could be very substantial for all of you cities and towns. You're going to see some good things happen over the next number of years. Another pillar of the American dream that has been under attack is home ownership. With us tonight is Rachel Wiggins, a mom of 2 from Houston. She placed bids on 20 homes and lost all of those bids to gigantic investment firms that bypassed inspection, paid all cash, and turned those houses into rentals, stealing away her American dream. She was devastated. Stories like this are why last month I signed executive order to ban large Wall Street investment firms from buying up in the thousands single-family homes. And now I'm asking Congress to make that ban permanent, because homes for people, really, that's what we want. We want homes for people, not for corporations. Corporations are doing just fine. Rachel, thank you very much. Good luck with your home. You'll get one soon. We're also working to make it easier for Americans to save for retirement. And under this administration, we will always protect Social Security and Medicare. They are not protecting it for our seniors. We will always protect Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. Since I took office, the typical 401k balance is up by at least $30,000. That's a lot of money. We have millions and millions of people, because the stock market has done so well, setting all those records. Your 401ks are way up. Yet half of all of working Americans still do not have access to a retirement plan with matching contributions from an employer. To remedy this gross disparity, I'm announcing that next year my administration will give these often forgotten American workers, great people, the people that built our country, access to the same type of retirement plan offered to every federal worker. We will match your contribution with up to $1,000 each year. As we ensure that all Americans can profit from a rising stock market, let's also ensure that members of Congress cannot corruptly profit from using insider information. They stood up for that. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Did Nancy Pelosi stand up if she's here? Doubt it. Pass the Stop Insider Trading Act without delay. I wasn't sure if anybody even on this side was going to applaud for that. I'm very impressed. Thank you. I'm very impressed. But when it comes to the corruption that is plundering, it's plundering America. There's been no more stunning example than Minnesota, where members of the Somali community have pillaged an estimated $19 billion from the American taxpayer. Oh, we have all the information. And in actuality, the number is much higher than that. And California, Massachusetts, Maine, and many other states are even worse. This is the kind of corruption that shreds the fabric of a nation, and we are working on it like you wouldn't believe. So tonight, although started 4 months ago, I am officially announcing the war on fraud to be led by our great Vice President, J.D. Vance. We'll get it done. And if we're able to find enough of that fraud, we will actually have a balanced budget overnight. It'll go very quickly. That's the kind of money you're talking about. We'll balance our budget. The Somali pirates who ransacked Minnesota remind us that there are large parts of the world where bribery, corruption, and lawlessness are the norm, not the exception. Importing these cultures through unrestricted immigration and open borders brings those problems right here to the USA. And it is the American people who pay the price in higher medical bills, car insurance rates, rent, taxes, and perhaps most importantly, crime. We will take care of this problem. We're going to take care of this problem. We are not playing games. Delilah. Delilah Colvin was only 5 years old in June 2024 when a 18-wheel tractor trailer plowed into her stopped car traveling at 60 miles an hour or more. The driver was an illegal alien let in by Joe Biden and given a commercial driver's license by open borders politicians in California. Doctors said Delilah would never be able to walk or talk, have a good life. She wouldn't even be able to eat again. But against all odds, she is now in the first grade learning to walk. And she's here this evening with her dad, Marcus, a fantastic man. Delilah, please, you are a great inspiration. Please stand up. Thank you, Delilah. Many, if not most, illegal aliens do not speak English and cannot read even the most basic road signs as to direction, speed, danger, or location. That's why tonight I'm calling on Congress to pass what we will call the Delilah Law, barring any state from granting commercial driver's licenses to illegal aliens. And yesterday, as you probably saw at the White House, I hosted a ceremony with Americans who lost their treasured loved ones to the scourge of illegal immigration. People came into our country, how we allowed this to happen with our open borders. These are the angel moms and families that for decades our government betrayed and our media totally ignored. It was terrible. Hard to believe, actually. In 2023, a 16-year-old high school cheerleader named Elizabeth Medina was supposed to perform in her town's Christmas parade, but she never arrived. Her mother, Jacqueline, went home to look for her, and she found her lying dead in a bathtub, bleeding profusely after being stabbed 25 times. Elizabeth's killer was a previously arrested illegal alien who had broken in and brutally extinguished the brightest light in her family's life, violently and viciously. Her heartbroken mother is in the gallery to remind everyone in this chamber exactly why we are deporting illegal alien criminals to our country at record numbers, and we're getting them the hell out of here fast. We don't want them. Thank you very much, Jacqueline. Thank you. We can never forget that many in this room not only allowed the border invasion to happen before I got involved, but indeed they would do it all over again if they ever had the chance. If they ever got elected, they would open up those borders to some of the worst criminals anywhere in the world. The only thing standing between Americans and a wide open border right now is President Donald J. Trump and our great Republican patriots in Congress. Thank you. Thank you. As we speak, Democrats in this chamber have cut off all funding for the Department of Homeland Security. It's all cut off. It's all cut off. They have instituted another Democrat shutdown, the first one costing us 2 points on GDP. 2 points we lost on GDP, which probably made them quite happy, actually. Now they have closed the agency responsible for protecting Americans from terrorists and murderers. Tonight I'm demanding the full and immediate restoration of all funding for the border security, homeland security of the United States, and also for helping people clean up their snow. We have no money because of the Democrats, and it would be nice, we'd love to give you a hand at cleaning it up, but you gave no money. Nobody's getting paid. It's a shame. So you have to think about it. We have, in case you didn't know, a pretty large snowstorm out there. One of the great things about the State of the Union is how it gives Americans the chance to see clearly what their representatives really believe. So tonight I'm inviting every legislator to join with my administration in reaffirming a fundamental principle. If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens. Isn't that a shame? You should be ashamed of yourself not standing up. You should be ashamed of yourself. That is why I'm also asking you to end deadly sanctuary cities that protect the criminals and enact serious penalties for public officials who block the removal of criminal aliens. In many cases, drug lords, murderers all over our country, they're blocking the removal of these people out of our country, and you should be ashamed of yourself. And perhaps most importantly, I'm asking you to approve the Save America Act. To stop illegal aliens and others who are unpermitted persons from voting in our sacred American elections. The cheating is rampant in our elections. It's rampant. It's very simple. All voters must show voter ID. All voters must show proof of citizenship in order to vote. And no more crooked mail-in ballots except for illness, disability, military, or travel. None. And this should be an easy one. And by the way, it's polling at 89%, including Democrats. 89%. And even the new communist mayor of New York City, I think he's a nice guy, actually. Speak to him a lot. Bad policy, but nice guy. Just said they want people to shovel snow. They got hit hard. Wants them to shovel snow, but if you apply for that job, you need to show 2 original forms of ID and a Social Security card. Yet they don't want identification for the greatest privilege of them all, voting in America. No, it's no good. No good. Both Republicans and Democrats overwhelmingly agree on the policy that we just enunciated. And Congress should unite and enact this common sense, country-saving legislation right now, and it should be before anything else happens. And the reason they don't want to do it, why would anybody not want voter ID? One reason, because they want to cheat. There's only one reason. They make up all excuses. They say it's racist. They come up with things, you almost say, what imagination they have. They want to cheat, they have cheated, and their policy is so bad that the only way they can get elected is to cheat. And we're going to stop it. We have to stop it, John. And here is one more opportunity to show common sense in government. In the gallery tonight are Sage Blair and her mother, Michelle. In 2021, Sage was 14 when school officials in Virginia sought to socially transition her to a new gender, treating her as a boy and hiding it from her parents. Hard to believe, isn't it? Before long, a confused Sage ran away from home after she was found in a horrific situation in Maryland A left-wing judge refused to return Sage to her parents because they did not immediately state that their daughter was their son. Sage was thrown into an all-boys state home and suffered terribly for a long time. But today, all of that is behind them because Sage is a proud and wonderful young woman with a full-ride scholarship to Liberty University. Sage and Michelle, please stand up. And thank you for your great bravery. And who can believe that we're even speaking about things like this? 15 years ago, if somebody was up here and said that, they'd say, what's wrong with him? But now we have to say it because it's going on all over numerous states without even telling the parents. But surely we can all agree no state can be allowed to rip children from their parents' arms and transition them to a new gender against the parents' will. Who would believe that we're even talking about this? We must ban it, and we must ban it immediately. Look, nobody stands up. These people are crazy, I'm telling you. They're crazy. Amazing. Incredible. Boy, oh boy. We're lucky we have a country. With people like this, Democrats are destroying our country, but we've stopped it just in the nick of time, didn't we? No one cares more about protecting America's youth than our wonderful First Lady, now a movie star. She's a movie star. Can you believe it? Who would have believed that? Over the past year, she has had an incredible impact championing AI legislation, advancing a landmark executive order on foster care, and helping secure $30 million to launch the Melania Trump Foster Youth to Independence Initiative. It's a tremendous, really a tremendous thing that happened and had a lot of bipartisan support. She gets much better bipartisan support than I do. I get none. She gets a lot. Someday you're going to have to tell me how you did that. And students and educators in every state have joined the First Lady's efforts in the presidential AI challenge, keeping America's next generation positioned to succeed and strongly succeed in the future. Tonight, we welcome two young people whose lives reflect the First Lady's impact, Sierra Burns and Everest Nevermont. Thank you both, and Melania, thank you. I know how hard you worked on it. Thank you very much. I'm very proud to say that during my time in office, both the first 4 years and in particular this last year, there has been a tremendous renewal in religion, faith, Christianity, and belief in God. Tremendous renewal. This is especially true among young people, and a big part of that had to do with my great friend, Charlie Kirk, a great guy, great man. So last year, Charlie was violently murdered by an assassin and martyred, really martyred for his beliefs. His wonderful wife, Erica, is with us tonight. Erica, please stand. Thank you, Erica. Been through a lot. In Charlie's memory, we must all come together to reaffirm that America is one nation under God, and we must totally reject political violence of any kind. We love religion, and we love bringing it back, and it's coming back at levels that nobody actually thought possible. It's really a beautiful thing to see. Above all, unleashing America's promise requires keeping our communities safe. We have made incredible strides, yet dangerous repeat offenders continue to be released by pro-crime Democrat politicians again and again. We are honored to be joined tonight by a woman who's been through hell, Anya Zaretska. In 2022, she and her beautiful daughter, so beautiful, what a beautiful young woman, Irina, fled war-torn Ukraine to live with relatives near Charlotte, North Carolina. And by the way, what's going on with Charlotte? Last summer, 23-year-old Irina was riding home on the train when a deranged monster who had been arrested over a dozen times and was released through no cash bail, stood up and viciously slashed a knife through her neck and body. No one will ever forget. There were people on that train. No one will ever forget the expression of terror on Irina's face as she looked up at her attacker in the last seconds of her life. She died instantly. She had escaped a brutal war only to be slain by a hardened criminal set free to kill in America, came in through open borders. Mrs. Zaretska, tonight I promise you we will ensure justice for your magnificent daughter, Irina. How do you not stand? How do you not stand? I'm asking this Congress to pass tough legislation to ensure that violent and dangerous repeat offenders are put behind bars, and importantly, that they stay there. Starting last summer, I deployed our National Guard and federal law enforcement to restore law and order to our most dangerous cities, including Memphis, Tennessee, big success, New Orleans, Louisiana, big success, and our nation's capital itself, Washington, D.C., where we have almost no crime anymore in Washington, D.C. How did that happen? In fact, crime in Washington is now at the lowest level ever recorded, and murders in D.C. this January were down close to 100% from a year ago. They don't like to hear that. One of the sick people, one of the brave service members who helped achieve this stunning turnaround was 20-year-old West Virginia Army National Guard Specialist Sarah Beckstrom. After a 4-month deployment, she voluntarily extended her service, and her rank was going to be lifted. She was doing so well. They were so proud of her. But the very next day, she was on patrol near the White House when she was ambushed and shot in the head by a terrorist monster from Afghanistan. Shouldn't have been in our country. And all because she wore the uniform of our nation, she was shot. He traveled here because he didn't like people wearing our uniform. He was sick and deranged, shouldn't have been in our country. Sarah Beckstrom died in order to defend our capital, and we are honored to be joined by her wonderful parents, Gary and Evalie. Your daughter was a true American patriot, and she will be greatly missed. She was a great person. I saw reports on her. They've never seen anything like her. So sorry. Thank you very much. A great young lady. I saw reports that were like, perfect. She was perfect. Serving alongside Sarah that day was Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf. The terrorist shot Andrew in the head, and no one thought he could possibly make it. The two of them, Sarah and Andrew, both shot violently in the head. Neither was expected to make it. They weren't even given a chance, except his wonderful mother, named Melody, who I spoke to the same night, and she was so positive. The doctors thought that Andrew was gone, but his mother said, no, no, Mr. President, Andrew will be fine. He's going to make it. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, he was given almost no chance. She said, I have no doubt, sir, he's going to be okay. This was a conversation that I had with her that night, with her son laying helplessly in bed, blood all over. Everybody is praying, she said, sir, he will be okay. The doctors didn't understand what she was saying, and after looking at the results of the damage done, neither did I. She was so strong and conclusive that even Andrew's great father felt she didn't really understand the gravity of the situation. But she turned out to be right. Right, Melody? She turned out to be right. Amazing, actually. I said, where does this woman come from? She's the most positive person I've ever met. With God's help, Andrew has battled back from the edge of death, and we're talking about the edge of death, on his way to a miraculous recovery. He's got a little work to do, but he's doing great. Nice to see you. He's a good-looking guy. Nice to see you. Thanks, Andrew. Thank you very much. So, Andrew, while you're up, now I'm going to ask a highly respected General James Seward to present Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf and the great family of Sarah Beckstrom with the award created by our late great President George Washington himself. It's called the Purple Heart. We love you all. Love you. We're proudly restoring safety for Americans at home, and we are also restoring security for Americans abroad. Our country has never been stronger. My first 10 months, I ended 8 wars, including Cambodia. Isn't it funny? You're sick people. Cambodia and Thailand, Pakistan and India. Would have been a nuclear war. 35 million people said the Prime Minister of Pakistan would have died if it were not for my involvement. Kosovo and Serbia, Israel and Iran, Egypt and Ethiopia, Armenia and Azerbaijan, the Congo and Rwanda, and of course the war in Gaza, which proceeds at a very low level. It's just about there. And I want to thank Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner for your help. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Jared. And I also want to thank the man they report to, Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Thank you, Marco. People don't like you. You know, Marco got 100% of the votes when he was in confirmation. I think our next one was about 54%. And some of the Democrats are now saying, I can't believe we approved that guy. And he said it's an honor that they feel that way, right, Marco? You have done a great job, great Secretary of State. I think he'll go down as the best ever. Under the ceasefire I negotiated, every single hostage, both living and dead, has been returned home. Can you believe that? Nobody thought it was possible. Nobody thought that was possible. Both living and dead, and those parents who had a dead son, their boy, they'd always tell me their boy, they wanted him as much as though he were living. That was an amazing period of time. And they came back, and when we got all of the living hostages back, and many, many before them, but I always said those last 20 are going to be very tough, but we got many, many more, hundreds. But I said those last 20 are going to be tough. We got them back. But we only got back 14 or 15 of the dead of the 28. And believe it or not, Hamas worked along with Israel, and they dug and they dug and they dug. It's a tough thing to do, going through bodies all over, passing up 100 bodies sometimes for each one that they found. Tough job. And they finally got it back to 27. And then Steve and Jared, they got it back to 28. They found all 28. Nobody thought that was possible, but we did it. And I remember the family of the 28th. They were so grieved, but they were so happy as it's possible to be. They had their boy back. The mother said, "Sir, we have our boy back." What a period of time that was, but we got them all back. So thank you both very much. Great job. And we're working very hard to end the 9th war, the killing and slaughter between Russia and Ukraine, where 25,000 soldiers are dying each and every month. Think of that, 25,000 soldiers are dying a month. A war which would have never happened if I were president, would have never happened. As president, I will make peace wherever I can, but I will never hesitate to confront threats to America wherever we must. That's why in a breakthrough operation last June, the United States military obliterated Iran's nuclear weapons program with an attack on Iranian soil known as Operation Midnight Hammer. For decades, it had been the policy of the United States never to allow Iran to obtain a nuclear weapon. Many decades. Since they seized control of that proud nation 47 years ago, the regime and its murderous proxies have spread nothing but terrorism and death and hate. They've killed and maimed thousands of American service members and hundreds of thousands and even millions of people with what's called roadside bombs. They were the kings of the roadside bomb. And we took out Soleimani. I did that during my first term. Had a huge impact. He was the father of the roadside bomb. And just over the last couple of months with the protests, they've killed at least, it looks like 32,000 protests, 32,000 protesters in their own country. They shot them and hung them. We stopped them from hanging a lot of them with the threat of serious violence. But this is some terrible people. They've already developed missiles that can threaten Europe and our bases overseas, and they're working to build missiles that will soon reach the United States of America. After Midnight Hammer, they were warned to make no future attempts to rebuild their weapons program, and in particular, nuclear weapons. Yet they continue, starting it all over. We wiped it out, and they want to start all over again, and are at this moment again pursuing their sinister ambitions. We are in negotiations with them. They want to make a deal, but we haven't heard those secret words. We will never have a nuclear weapon. My preference is to solve this problem through diplomacy. But one thing is certain, I will never allow the world's #1 sponsor of terror, which they are by far, to have a nuclear weapon. Can't let that happen. And no nation should ever doubt America's resolve. We have the most powerful military on earth. I rebuilt the military in my first term. We're going to continue to do so. Also, we just approved a $1 trillion budget. We have no choice. We have to be strong, because hopefully we will seldom have to use this great power that we built together. It's really called peace through strength, and it's been very, very effective. So thanks to Republicans in Congress, we're investing that record number of dollars, have no choice, in the United States Armed Forces. Also creating a lot of jobs, but we're not even doing it for that reason. Because as I said, we have more jobs, more people working today than ever before in the history of our country. And NATO countries are friends and allies. They are. They're our friends and they're our allies. Have just agreed, at my very strong request, to pay 5% of GDP for military defense rather than the 2%, which they weren't paying. We were paying for almost all of NATO. Now they're paying 5 as opposed to not paying 4. And getting that 5% was something which everyone said would never be done, could not happen. We got it really easily with one meeting. And big difference between 2% that's not paid. We were paying the freight of many of them. Very few were paid up. Now 5%, then they're paid. And everything we send over to Ukraine is sent through NATO, and they pay us in full. They pay us totally in full. Every branch of our armed forces is setting records for recruitment. This is so exciting. And every service member recently. And every service member recently received a warrior dividend of $1,776. You know, they put it on my desk. We got the money from tariffs and other things, a lot of money we have. We have much more money than people understand. Have to rebuild that program a little bit, but it won't take long. But we got the money, and it was $1,775, and they wanted my approval. And I said, what's the number? $1,775. I said, wait a minute, for $1 more, we can have $1,776. It's going to... I said, we're going to figure that. I never asked anybody if we could afford it. $1 more, I said $1,776. And I said, that's good. And I'll tell you what, our military, that was 4 months ago, our military, I never see a person in the military that doesn't thank me for it. So we're honored to do it. They deserve it. And we call it 1776. It was great. And we love our military. We love our law enforcement. We love our firemen. You know, the firemen don't get mentioned enough. We love our firemen. We're also restoring American security and dominance in the Western Hemisphere, acting to secure our national interests and defend our country from violence, drugs, terrorism, and foreign interference. For years, large swaths of territory in our region, including large parts of Mexico, really large parts of Mexico, have been controlled by murderous drug cartels. That's why I designated these cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, and I declared illicit fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction. And with our new military campaign, we have stopped record amounts of drugs coming into our country and virtually stopped it completely coming in by water or sea. You probably noticed that. We very seriously damaged their fishing industry also. Nobody wants to go fishing anymore. We've also taken down one of the most sinister cartel kingpins of all. You saw that yesterday. In January, elite American warriors carried out one of the most complex, spectacular feats of military competence and power in world history. No one's seen anything like it. Foreign leaders, I won't tell you who, called me and they said, very impressive, very good. They couldn't believe, they all watched, they saw what happened. This is a different fighting force that we had years ago when we fought to tie. You know, it's a great fighting force. I'm so proud of it. Look at Space Force. Space Force is my baby, because we did that. My baby. It's becoming so important. And America's armed forces overwhelmed all defenses and utterly defeated an enemy, good fighters, to end the reign of outlaw dictator Nicolas Maduro and bring him to face American justice. And this was an absolutely colossal victory for the security of the United States, and it also opens up a bright new beginning for the people of Venezuela. We're working closely with the new president of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, to unleash extraordinary economic gains for both of our countries and to bring new hope to those who have suffered so terribly. They really did suffer. With us tonight is Alejandro Gonzalez. She grew up in a tight-knit Venezuelan family and was especially close to her beloved Uncle Enrique. But after Enrique ran for office and opposed Maduro, he was kidnapped by Maduro's security forces and thrown into the regime's really infamous prison in Caracas. Alejandro feared she would never see her uncle again. She feared for her own life also. But since the raid, we have worked with the new leadership, and they have ordered the closure of that vile prison and released hundreds of political prisoners already, with more to come. Alejandro, I'm pleased to inform you that not only has your uncle been released, but he is here tonight. We brought him over to celebrate his freedom with you in person. Enrique, please come down. Thank you, Enrique. Have a good time. Nice to have you back, Enrique. There were many heroes on that January raid to capture Maduro, really great heroes. It was very dangerous. They knew we were coming. They were all set. But the deeds of one warrior that night will live forever in the eternal chronicles of military valor. Chief Warrant Officer 5, Eric Slover, planned the mission and was the flight lead in the cockpit of the first helicopter, a big, beautiful, powerful helicopter. It was a massive Chinook carrying, as you can imagine, many, many American warfighters. Wearing the dog tags his wife Amy had blessed with holy water before he left. She knew it was going to be a rough one. Eric steered the Chinook under the cover of night and descended swiftly upon Maduro's heavily protected military fortress. This was a major military installation, protected by thousands of soldiers and guarded by Russian and Chinese military technology. How did that work out? Not too good. While preparing to land, enemy machine guns fired from every angle, and Eric was hit very badly in the leg and hip, one bullet after another. He absorbed 4 agonizing shots, shredding his leg into numerous pieces. And yet, despite the fact that the use of his legs was vital to successful helicopter flight, legs are the most important part of flying a helicopter, to deliver the many commandos who would capture and detain Maduro was the only thing Eric was thinking about. Then, even as he was gushing blood, which was flowing back down the aisle, helicopter lands at a steep angle. The machine gun stood right in front of him. They were right in front of him, 2 machine gunners who escaped the wrath of the previous planes. Eric maneuvered his helicopter with all of those lives and souls to face the enemy and let his gunners eliminate the threat. Turned the helicopter around so the gunners could take care of business, saving the lives of his fellow warriors from what could have been a catastrophic crash deep in enemy territory. Only after safely landing the helicopter with all the warriors aboard in the exact right spot, which was vital to the mission, we probably would have had to maybe cancel the mission if that didn't happen. Eric told his co-pilot, also wounded but not as gravely, to take over. I'm about ready to pass out. The success of the entire mission and the lives of his fellow warriors hinge on Eric's ability to take the searing pain. It was unbelievable what's happened to his legs, of the bullets, and keep on flying and landing, and people knew what was happening. Everybody in the back of the helicopter knew because they saw the blood pouring down the aisle. Chief Warrant Officer Slover is still recovering from his serious wounds, but I'm thrilled to say that he is here tonight with his wife, Amy, Eric, and Amy. Come on in. So we have a surprise for Eric and Amy. In recognition of Eric's actions above and beyond the call of duty, I would now like to ask General Jonathan Braga to present Chief Warrant Officer Slover with our nation's highest military award, the Congressional Medal of Honor. Well, thank you very much, Eric and Amy. Great to get to know you. I met with them and with a lot of their fellow warriors at Fort Bragg recently. You notice the name Fort Bragg. We have it back. We brought it back. We won the First World War with it, the Second World War with it, and then they decided to change the name. So we changed it back. Everybody wanted to change back, too. And 10 of Eric's fellow warriors from that incredible night of victory will also be receiving medals at a private ceremony that will soon be held at the White House. And Eric will be there. Thank you. Thank you, Eric. That's a big one. Tonight we've celebrated many truly extraordinary American patriots, but there is one last living legend to honor before we go. He is one more heroic American aviator, Navy fighter pilot. Royce Williams served in World War II, Korea, Vietnam, flying more than 220 missions. In the skies over Korea in 1952, Royce was in the dogfight of a lifetime, legendary dogfight. Flying through blizzard conditions, his squadron was ambushed by 7 Soviet fighter planes. It was his first aerial combat of the war, and despite being massively outnumbered and outgunned, Royce led the takedown of 4 enemy jets and almost destroyed the others, vanquishing his adversaries while taking 263 bullets to his own plane and being seriously hurt. His story was secret for over 50 years. He didn't even want to tell his wife, but the legend grew and grew. But tonight, at 100 years old, this brave Navy captain is finally getting the recognition he deserves. He was a legend long before this evening. Royce, please stand up, and I will ask the First Lady of the United States to present Captain Royce Williams with his Congressional Medal of Honor. Thank you, Royce, and thank you, Eric. I've always wanted the Congressional Medal of Honor, but I was informed I'm not allowed to give it to myself, and I wouldn't know why I'd be taking it, but if they ever open up that law, I will be there with you someday. But you know, that's our highest honor, Congressional Medal of Honor, and that's a big thing, and it's an honor to be in the same room with you. Thank you both very much, Eric. Thank you. Thank you. 250 years is a long time in the life of a nation, but in another sense, it's really a mere moment in the eye of history. Two of the gentlemen we met in the gallery this evening took their first breaths 1 century ago, 100 years before that, on July 4th, 1826, the author of the Declaration of Independence, brilliant, Thomas Jefferson, drew his last breath. Just a single long human lifespan separates the giants who declared and won our independence from the heroes who stand among us tonight. Everything our nation has done, everything we have achieved, has been the work of those few great lifetimes. In those brief chapters, Americans built this nation from 13 humble colonies into the pinnacle of human civilization and human freedom, the strongest, wealthiest, most powerful, most successful nation in all of history. Americans ventured out across the daunting and dangerous continent. We carved paths through an unforgiving wilderness, settled a boundless frontier, and tamed the beautiful but very, very dangerous Wild West. From empty marshes and wide open plains, we raised up the world's greatest cities. Together, we mastered the world's mightiest industries and shattered history's monstrous tyrannies. And we liberated millions from the chains of fascism, communism, oppression, and terror. Americans lifted humanity into the skies on the wings of aluminum and steel. And then we launched mankind into the stars on rockets powered by sheer American will and unyielding American pride. We wired the globe with our ingenuity. We captivated the planet with American culture. And now we are pioneering the next great American breakthroughs that will change the entire world. All of this and so much more is the enduring legacy, unmatched glory of the hardworking patriots who built and defended this country and who still carry the hopes and freedoms on all of humanity's backs. For years they were forgotten, betrayed, and cast aside. But that great betrayal is over, and they will never be forgotten again. Because when the world needs courage, daring, vision, and inspiration, it is still turning to America. And when God needs a nation to work his miracles, he knows exactly who to ask. There is no challenge Americans cannot overcome, no frontier too vast for us to conquer, no dream too bold for us to chase, no horizon too distant for us to claim. For our destiny is written by the hand of providence, and these first 250 years were just the beginning. From the rugged border towns of Texas to the heartland villages of Michigan, from the sun-kissed shores of Florida to the endless fields of the Dakotas, and from the historic streets of Philadelphia to right here in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., the golden age of America is upon us. The revolution that began in 1776 has not ended. It still continues because the flame of liberty and independence still burns in the heart of every American patriot. And our future will be bigger, better, brighter, bolder, and more glorious than ever before. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.
You've been listening to President Donald Trump give his State of the Union address tonight, wrapping things up, I guess we could say in record time, nearly 2 hours there speaking, certainly beating his last record. I think he started speaking about 9/11 or so. Really talking about transformation and how he has changed the nation in his first year of his second term, talking about policies, legislation, scolding Democrats, and certainly applauding Republicans who stood many, many times, of course, when the president touted that legislation and some of those policies.
At times, this was a clear victory lap for this president. At times, this was him laying out what's still ahead, and in between, growing a stark divide between his party and Democrats. Tonight, as the president leaves the chamber there and heads eventually back to the White House, certainly a lot of people will be talking about this speech here tonight and what stands out to them. Here for our coverage, I'm Blair Miller, alongside my co-anchor Tracy Hutchins and our political analyst Dr. Ben Taylor, our political reporter Doug Reardon. You know, I think one thing that's going to stand out to folks, I'm curious to get your read on this, that the president clearly many times was making that divide with Democrats, pointing it out that they were not standing up. He said it many times, and you wonder if that was on purpose.
Oh, I think it absolutely was on purpose. And honestly, my biggest takeaway of this tonight was from a political practice point of view. The first rule, like so many things in life, do no harm. I don't think President Trump did any harm for his position or his messages or Republicans in general. But at the same time, if you're a Democrat and you watch this, you probably didn't find much to like either. And Republicans probably loved it and ate a lot of it up. You saw a lot of that as you were talking about with who was standing and not standing at various points. But again, I think we'll have to wait a few weeks to see what polling tells us. But I'm curious to see how independents and moderates react to this. There was some attention to them, but mainly it was red meat for the base, reminding Republicans that they've got a race to run in the fall. And so that worked. But did he reach moderates and independents? I'm not so sure.
Yeah, and Doug, you were listening intently as well. And of course, we are looking for those things that are Georgia focused. What does it mean to voters here in our home state?
Yeah, I think we heard it in listening to some of what the voters out in Rome were saying before we came into this coverage about the economy. One lady said, I own a floral shop and this was my worst Valentine's Day ever, and she was wearing the red Trump hat, right? And so I think you can't get away from the economy. It's the thing that affects everybody. You know, does a raid in Venezuela affect everyone? Does corporate home ownership affect everyone? Not necessarily. But the one thing that Trump knows is that the economy is what impacts everyone. I think that's why you heard a good amount of that speech dedicated to tariffs today, dedicated to job growth and to inflation falling. Not a surprise there.
I think the big question is, did he do enough on the economy? What do you all think as far as that? Because what the president's saying and what people are dealing with tonight, maybe doing their checkbooks tonight, looking at their bank accounts and trying to figure out how they're going to afford things, there's still a disconnect. And some people wondering, did he go far enough tonight?
That's a great point. And I think that it's always difficult for politicians to try to tell Americans what they are feeling is not true.
Right.
And that is the problem that President Biden had during his administration the last 4 years, and that's a similar problem that President Trump is having with the economy right now. If you look at as he pointed out, the stock market is doing very well, but not everyone has a stock portfolio. You know, the Main Street economy is what most people are worried about, like flower shop owners and things like that. And if they're feeling the pinch, then that's going to trickle out to other aspects of the economy as well. So.
And it seemed as though he acknowledged just a little bit of that some, people here are not feeling those benefits that he promised. Remember, on day one, he said, you're going to see all these differences, the price of groceries going down. And then for some things, he said, you know what, it's still taking a little bit of time. But then we heard what we've heard before, blame the Biden administration for that. But you've been in office now for 1 year, and some people could say, okay, how long do you fall back on that, on blaming the previous administration?
Yeah, I mean, you heard it with beef in particular. He said, we're not quite there yet, but don't give us some time. We're getting there. But genuinely, I think that the president is, and this is just being blunt, hallucinating a little bit this issue of affordability, because he said out in Rome when we were there last Thursday, we beat the problem. It's not a problem anymore. No one's talking about affordability anymore. Go talk to any voter in the 14th district. Go talk to any voter in Georgia. Go talk to any legislator, by the way, at the state capitol, where they said affordability is our main concern this session. That is just not the case. And I think the president didn't do enough of a job, a good enough job of leaning into what he has not tackled yet on the economy, these everyday prices of everyday goods that people are still really struggling to pay.
We are waiting for the Democrats' response on this tonight. We're going to get it from Virginia's Governor, Abigail Spanberger. As soon as she begins, we will take that to her. But I'm curious, did Democrats score any points tonight by sitting on their hands much of the time? And there was such a visual with that, and you heard some sparring back and forth, and everyone's going to dissect that. Do Democrats win much tonight?
I think that what they mainly wanted to do, and I think you saw this from some of the comments their leaders made before the events tonight. They said, "Look, we want to remain decorous, and we want to keep decorum in effect. We don't want to create a scene." And I think they mainly did that. You had a few of their more boisterous members sort of shout out and things of that nature, but. And those things will cue for conservatives, right? If you're a conservative, if you're a diehard Trump supporter, you're going to focus in on those things and say, oh, look at those Democrats, But the thing is, I think mainly it was about Trump. It was a very long speech. And I noticed that it took him some time to get to some high points policy-wise. It was mainly just sort of broad platitudes and generalizations, which is common in these kinds of things. But again, I think the main thing is if you're a Republican and a Trump supporter, you're probably pleased, if not happy with what you heard tonight. If you're a Democrat, you probably said, well, this is the same thing we've always heard and we don't believe it. But if you're a moderate or independent, I'm not sure there was much there for you to get excited about either, but I guess we'll have to wait and see on that.
I think the ceremony is all in the eye of the beholder, because you'll have people who will really take Ilhan Omar to task for standing up and speaking to Trump. But then a couple of years ago, you had Marjorie Taylor Greene stand up and shout, you're a liar at Joe Biden, and people love that. So, this is an act. It's a bit of a play all throughout, and I think Democrats just did what they were expected to do.
Any surprises for either of you, or just kind of par for the course? I know, a lot of us I did expect to hear some grievances. Of course, we heard those directed towards Republicans. Even the 2020 election, that was, subliminally there, but it was certainly there. And of course, the past administration as well. But any surprises, do you think, in this nearly 2 hours?
Well, the biggest surprise to me was that he did talk a bit about foreign policy, but it was very far back. in the speech. And some of that is a recognition of the thing that voters and that Americans care about the most is the economy and what's going on in the United States. And foreign policy is not top of mind for them. But we have major foreign policy things going on. We have the largest massing of troops in the Middle East right now since 2003 on the coast of Iran. That's a big deal.
Well, and not to cut you off, but on the issue of Iran, it seemed like that may have been the one issue in that room where there was maybe some more support from both sides on that.
Yeah, a little bit, but it took a long time to get there.
Right.
And so that was a surprise. I thought they would have brought that up earlier.
Yeah, surprise-wise for me, I've been to a lot of these rallies that the president has held here in Georgia and elsewhere. He stayed on script. By and large, it didn't seem like he went off script too much. I think even for as long as the speech was, that is where he can get himself into trouble with, as you mentioned, these really important, moderate, independent voters when he goes off script. And he really seemed to stick to the teleprompter tonight. That surprised me a little bit.
What do you think everybody's going to be talking about tomorrow morning on this? Is that the themes of patriotic themes that we saw, because that was fully on display with all the awards that were given out and the depth of the stories that we heard? Or is it going to be that disagreement, that gridlock that so many of us are used to inside the Beltway there in D.C.?
Well, I think a little of both. The human interest stories are always interesting and make a lot of headlines. But I think one of the things that I thought about as President Trump was speaking was a lot of his complaints about Congress really should be directed at his own party in the House specifically. They've not done much. I mean, they've been like historically unproductive in the House of Representatives. And so if he wants to get things passed, it really, like for instance, the insider trading bill, that's been something that's bubbled up a time or two, and Democrats are in favor of it. There are rank and file Republicans in favor of it, but Republican leaders have not taken that to the floor and not made movement on that. And so things of that nature are somewhat in the weeds, but that's important.
Yeah, and I go back to what I said before. I think what people will talk about tomorrow was what was not talked about tonight when we're talking about some of the economic numbers. And as I understand, Governor Spanberger is kind of stepping up here. So.
Yeah, that is, of course, the Democratic response. Let's listen.
The House of Burgesses. In 1705, the people of the Virginia colony gathered here to take on the extraordinary task of governing themselves. Before there was a Declaration of Independence, a Constitution, or a Bill of Rights, there were people in this room. The people who served here ultimately dreamed of what a new nation, unlike anything the world had ever seen, could be. The United States was founded on the idea that ordinary people could reject the unacceptable excesses of poor leadership, band together to demand better of their government, and create a nation that would be an example for the world. And this year, as we celebrate 250 years since America declared our independence from tyranny, I can think of no better place to speak to you as we reflect on the current state of our union. Tonight, as we watched our nation's lawmakers gather for a joint session of Congress, we did not hear the truth from our president. So let's speak plainly and honestly. And let me ask you, the American people watching at home, 3 questions. Is the president working to make life more affordable for you and your family? Is the president working to keep Americans safe both at home and abroad? Is the president working for you? As I campaigned for governor last year, I traveled to every corner of Virginia, and I heard the same pressing concern everywhere. Costs are too high in housing, healthcare, energy, and childcare. And I know these same conversations are being had all across this country. Because since this president took office last year, his reckless trade policies have forced American families to pay more than $1,700 each in tariff costs. Small businesses have suffered, farmers have suffered, some losing entire markets. Everyday Americans are paying the price. And even though the Supreme Court struck these tariffs down 4 days ago, the damage to us, the American people, has already been done. Meanwhile, the president is planning for new tariffs, another massive tax hike on you and your family. And Republicans in Congress, they remain unwilling to assert their constitutional authority to stop him. They're making your life harder. They're making your life more expensive. They're even making it more difficult to see a doctor. Rural health clinics in Virginia and across the country are already closing their doors thanks to the so-called One Big Beautiful Bill, championed by the president and Republicans in Congress. And tonight, the president celebrated this law, the one threatening rural hospitals, stripping health care from millions of Americans and driving up costs in energy and housing, all while cutting food programs for hungry kids. But here in Virginia, I am working with our state legislature to lower costs and make the Commonwealth more affordable. And it's not just me. Democrats across the country are laser focused on affordability in our nation's capital and in state capitals and communities across America. In the most innovative and exceptional nation in the history of the world, Americans deserve to know that their leaders are focused on addressing the problems that keep them up at night. Problems that dictate where you live, whether you can afford to start a business or whether you have to skip a prescription in order to buy groceries. So I'll ask again, is the president working to make life more affordable for you and your family? We all know the answer is no. I grew up in a house of service. My mother was a nurse and my father was a career law enforcement officer. I began my career by following in my father's footsteps as a federal agent, working money laundering and narcotics cases. I worked side by side with local and state police to keep our community safe and to uphold and enforce the law. Law enforcement officers across the country know that it is a unique responsibility to do the serious work of investigating crimes, comforting victims, and making arrests. It's about building trust, and that requires an abiding sense of duty and commitment to community. And yet, our president has sent poorly trained federal agents into our cities, where they have arrested and detained American citizens and people who aspire to be Americans. And they have done it without a warrant. They have ripped nursing mothers away from their babies. They have sent children, a little boy in a blue bunny hat, children to far-off detention centers, and they have killed American citizens in our streets. And they have done it all with their faces masked from accountability. Every minute spent sowing fear is a minute not spent investigating murders, crimes against children, or the criminals defrauding seniors of their life savings. Our president told us tonight that we are safer because these agents arrest mothers and detain children. Think about that. Our broken immigration system is something to be fixed, not an excuse for unaccountable agents to terrorize our communities. After working in law enforcement, I continued my career of service as a CIA officer, working undercover to protect the United States and our allies from global threats, terrorism, nuclear weapons, and the aggression of adversarial nations around the globe. But as the president spoke of his perceived successes tonight, he continues to cede economic power and technological strength to Russia, bow down to China, bow down to a Russian dictator, and make plans for war with Iran. Here's the truth. Over the last year, through DOJ, mass firings, and the appointment of deeply unserious people to our nation's most serious positions, our president has endangered the long and storied history of the United States of America being a force for good. So I'll ask again, is the president working to keep Americans safe, both at home and abroad? We all know the answer is no. In his speech tonight, the president did what he always does. He lied, he scapegoated, and he distracted. And he offered no real solutions to our nation's pressing challenges, so many of which he is actively making worse. He tries to divide us. He tries to enrage us, to pit us against one another, neighbor against neighbor. And sometimes he succeeds. And so you have to ask, Who benefits from his rhetoric, his policies, his actions, the short list of laws he's pushed through this Republican Congress? Somebody must be benefiting. He's enriching himself, his family, his friends. The scale of the corruption is unprecedented. There's the cover-up of the Epstein files, the crypto scams, cozying up to foreign princes for airplanes and billionaires for ballrooms, putting his name and face on buildings all over our nation's capital. This is not what our founders envisioned, not by a long shot. So I'll ask again, is the president working for you? We all know the answer is no. But here's the special thing about America. On our 250th anniversary, we know better than any nation what is possible when ordinary citizens, like those who once dreamed right here in this room, reject the unacceptable and demand more of their government. We see it in the determination of students organizing school walkouts all across the country, whose voices are becoming so powerful that the governor of Texas seeks to silence them. We see it in the bravery of Americans in Minnesota standing up for their communities, from peacefully protesting in sub-zero temperatures to carpooling children to school so that their immigrant parents are not ripped away from them in the parking lot. As a mother of 3 school-aged daughters, I am inspired by their bravery, but I am sickened that it is necessary. And Americans across the country are taking action. They are going to the ballot box to reject this chaos. With their votes, they are writing a new story, a more hopeful story. In November, I won my election by 15 points. And we won 13 new seats in our state legislature. Because voters decided they wanted something different. Our campaign earned votes from Democrats, Republicans, independents, and everyone in between. Because they knew as citizens they could demand more, that they could vote for what they believe matters, and that they didn't need to be constrained by a party or political affiliation. This is happening across the country. New Jersey elected Mikey Sherrill as governor in a double-digit victory. Democrats flipped state legislative seats in places like Georgia, Iowa, Mississippi, and Texas. The list goes on and on. Ordinary Americans are stepping up to run in the spirit of our forefathers. They are running to demand more and to do more for their neighbors and communities. I know this story well. I first ran for office in 2018 alongside dozens of other Democrats who did the seemingly impossible, flipping 41 seats in Congress. In my case, I was the first Democrat elected in 50 years, swinging our district 17 points. Those who are stepping up now to run will win in November because Americans, you at home, know you can demand more and that we are working to lower costs. We are working to keep our communities and our country safe, and we are working for you. In his farewell address, George Washington warned us about the possibility of, quote, cunning, ambitious, and unprincipled men rising to power. But he also encouraged us, all Americans, to unite in a common cause, to move this nation forward. That is our charge once more, and that is what we are seeing across the country. It is deeply American and patriotic to do so, and it is how we ensure that the state of our union remains strong, not just this year, but for the next 250 years as well, because we, the people, have the power to make change, the power to stand up for what is right, the power to demand more of our nation. May God bless the Commonwealth of Virginia, and may God bless the United States of America.
You are listening to the governor of Virginia, Abigail Spanberger, give the Democratic response to tonight's State of the Union. She certainly is a rising figure within the Democratic Party, leaning on her years of being a member of the CIA. She was doing that speech live from Colonial Williamsburg, focusing on founding themes, historic themes for this country, talking about the economy, talking about safety, emphasizing affordability and cost of living pressures that she says so many people are dealing with. And many times she asks people, is this a president who is working for you?
Yeah, response certainly people will be talking about tomorrow, as well as the State of the Union address. Dr. Ben Taylor, our political analyst, we appreciate your time. And Doug Reardon, our political reporter, we appreciate you too as well. And guess what? The conversation does not stop here. Of course, we are digging deeper into President Trump's State of the Union address and what it could mean for this year's midterm elections this weekend during an all-new edition of On the Record. It airs Sunday morning at 11 a.m. only on Atlanta News First and streaming for free on ANF+.